The Lone Ranger sold his wardrobe. The Lone Ranger sold his bad dog. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know, 'cause times change, I know. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder.
The price of my love is not a price that's so willing to pay.
Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hour. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say.
What up, what up, what up, what up? Come on. Come up here. Get some snacks. Show people your face. No? What up, Twitch? What up, Twitch? What up, Michael? Thank you for the Prime. There it is. There we go. What up, Cosmic? Uh-oh. Oh, the stream bots are not. Do. They did updaters. Sorry. Too many things going on at once. What up, Twitch? What up, Michael? What up, Cosmic? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in Machatterino? What up, Stampy? Getting snacks? What up, fucking stream avatars not fucking working when I wanted to work? Oh, what up, One Great Earth? How is the job going? Decent. Going with decent. What up, Ben? Oh. Something I love about Stampy is like I will pick him up in a basket, I will move the chair around and he'll just chill, right? Thank you, One Great Earth. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. All right. I'm going to give one more attempt to fire up stream avatars. And then I think we're going to proceed without it if it doesn't work. Hey, we're in business. What up, Cricks? It's your other favorite old man. People are adding me in the chat. Yeah, buddy. I'm gonna be an old man. Get your button ready, because I'm gonna describe to you the meme that was fired off in the group chat with my friends. Person, humans are the virus. Duck. It is literally eco-fascist rhetoric. Stop trying to shift the blame away from capitalism when it's obviously the problem. Thank you. You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. See, if this... No. Humans can be plague rats.
Look at this chart. Let's bring it up.
What am I looking at here?
I don't know, but it doesn't look good.
That looks bad.
Yeah, it's probably bad.
Probably bad. What I love about Neural Viz's stuff is if you watch the mouth, you can tell that they're all the same person. They all have the exact same mouth. It's great. All right. So, we'll close that. I'm just going to close a bunch of windows that I had left open from the last time we saw each other. And let's get into the content. You want to do some content? We got all kinds of content. Oh, look, I made you some content. Daddy made you your favorite open wide. Rick says no content. Crix just wants to sit here and listen to me talk. Apparently. Allegedly. I would like to think so, Cosmic, right? Like as entertaining as I can be on my own. Can be entertaining. I'm given to understand that you're here for the latest AI news and commentary. So let's start with some news. CNBC, the stronger getting stronger in the AI race.
All of these, there's sort of so many different cross currents going on in AI, but let's start with just the biggest, which is this sort of huge effort by both Meta and, frankly, so many other companies now to effectively called acqui-hire, hire people, effectively buying companies without really buying them at these sort of astronomical rates and picking off engineers at these crazy numbers, and whether any of this ultimately is going to make sense.
Well, it's a big set of questions, Andrew. And what we're seeing is this race consolidating. It's been happening for years now, but these slew of startups that raised a ton of capital on the promise of building great AI businesses are now ending up in the hands of the big companies. We saw that with Windsurf's team going to Google most recently, but it's been happening for months. And I think the strong are getting stronger. When I sat down this week with Meta CEO and founder Mark Zuckerberg, it was clear that he feels they have the wind at their back in terms of the investments they can make, the recruiting that they're doing. And so I think it is a new phase of this race, and it has big implications, of course, for the investors in these startups and their employees.
Let me ask you a culture question, though, and this is something that Sam Altman has raised and I think about all the time. You know, when you start to pay people,
I just got an alert. $1,702 stimulus payment for everyone in July if you're in Alaska.
$100 million at a shot, or whatever these numbers are, and maybe you can shed some more light on what those numbers really are. You know, what is the incentive for a lot of these folks not to put their feet up on the desk? Actually, I would say on Wall Street for a very long time, there were efforts to pick people off at crazy numbers, and invariably those deals never really worked out because those folks.
So, Crix, I'm not going to listen to you complain about AI anything, right? Like, no, nothing.
Took the money. They were very happy to take the money, but it changes the sort of incentive.
Getting them Alaska payments ain't even subbed in my chat. What is up with that?
Incentive structure with which they work.
I guess they're winning the race for superintelligence is the answer. I mean, these researchers are motivated to crack open this research opportunity. I'm fascinated. They're actually coming over to companies in teams, which is one of the first time I've certainly seen, I guess, group recruiting in Silicon Valley. As Zuckerberg said to me, they want their team.
Surprising that it didn't call it like group recruiting or some other fucking HR weird term.
And they want access to the most compute, and that's about it. And that's how he's had success recently. And so I think we'll figure out how these massive comp packages, and when I asked Zuckerberg about these 100 million, 200 million comp packages, he brushed it aside. He said there were some inaccuracies. I believe broadly those numbers as packages are correct. And I think the question is, I mean, by all accounts, these researchers are very passionate. They believe there is a real moment here to do great work. But time will tell on your point, and also how other employees at these companies feel about their next door neighbor getting CEO plus like pay.
Right.
I think that's a big question.
And the
too.
other piece of this, which I think about a lot, is how much of these quote unquote acqui-hire, as in acquiring a company to hire a person, or in some cases not even buying the company, but just buying the person, this is sort of inverting the model in a way, is really an effort just to get around regulation. So instead of actually buying a company and merging them, because you'd actually have to go, you know, through the FTC and maybe the DOJ and others, all of a sudden you say, well, I'm just hiring some people.
100%. 100%. That's absolutely what's happening. We saw this. I think Microsoft's acqui-hire of the leader of Inflection, Mustafa, was probably one of the first examples of this, but Google has done it with Character and Gnome. And I think regulators are looking at it. They've said they're looking at it. Now, it's not as straightforward, perhaps, as other deals, but I don't think it's happening without scrutiny. I think it's.
Honestly, One Grader, I haven't had enough time to actually sit down and use them. Maybe Wednesday, I might. State is paying the state. And then that to me, Crick, sounds like the solution to everything. It's like I don't particularly want money, right? You people want money and you people want money. Why don't you work it out between yourselves, right? I just want, electricity and food.
Happening, though, because the investors and teams in these companies realize they're not going to be spending the $100 billion on the supercomputers to win the next phase of this war. And so I think for the first time, we might actually see businesses that have $100 million in revenue already, because you can get real revenue traction in AI today, but that sort of go belly up and end up sort of in pieces across Silicon Valley.
Jessica, what do you think the end game is for Meta? Knowing you've known Mark for a very long time, you've been friends with him. Your husband worked with him years and years ago. In terms of where they stack up relative to these other players that either have figured out how to monetize AI or not, given that at least currently it seems like Meta's planning to if they stay the course, be an open source operation, and whether they can make money doing that.
So the most interesting thing.
Fucking Larry. Don't. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like the the walls and the art is gray, right? The floor is like a pale, it's probably bamboo, right? She strikes me as the type. But then the walls are just like beigeish, and then, oh my God, like what has happened to us?
About my interview to me this week was Mark is defining a territory of AI that he thinks others aren't going after. Google's
Like, and there's just so much nothing going on in this space. There is no life, there is no personality, like, holy shit, dude. Can you imagine? Like, I don't know how much money she has, okay? But she's got to make a decent amount of money over at the information. And her husband, according to the reporter dude, used to work for Facebook. So he's got to have a couple nickels to rub together. Imagine having all that money and just nothing. Just so much nothing. Just a complete lack of any personality, any joy, anything. Fuck me running.
not going after, OpenAI is not going after, and he calls it personal superintelligence. He says, yes, solving all these economic efficiency opportunities in society is great, and people will do that. I want to be focused on how the billions of people who use Meta's products are going to make their lives better. I pushed him on this because I think it's a nebulous case at this point, but he talked about glasses. He talked about the 5 things in his head after a conversation that he wants to follow up on but doesn't. What if that happened automatically? So he's trying to define some new product turf. I have questions about the business models in that product turf, the feasibility of the product turf, but I think it
Are they playing her off?
is different from the very productivity focus we've seen with others. And then compute, I really believe that perhaps we're focused too much on the money that's luring these researchers and not as much the access to GPUs that's luring them. And I think he thinks he has a great hand in that race as well. But this was one of the first times I had heard him speak so much about personal superintelligence, which, if you're keeping score, superintelligence has lately replaced AGI as the buzzword in AI. So I think we'll see, but it seems like he's sensing a real divergence opportunity on products as well.
Well, that was the thing that happened. This is Ring of Fire. I've seen other people watch him. He finally did something about AI. Chaos caused by Doge's AI bots has completely crippled Social Security.
To new reports based on conversations with people inside the Social Security Administration, people who receive Social Security benefits that have been
You know who works for Social Security? Big balls.
trying to deal with the Social Security Administration, and legal representatives who represent people who are on Social Security. According to all 3 of those groups of people, so pretty much anyone associated with Social Security, the entire system has become a complete and total nightmare because of what Elon Musk and his little teenage minions at Doge have done to it.
Yay!
And one of the biggest issues, according to the people who have to deal with it, is that there's nobody to answer the phones anymore. Now, I don't know if people realize this, but there is a generation gap here in the United States. We still have an older generation, just so happens to be
Yeah, I got that impression. It just, like I really like to stay in my lane, right? And Also, I want people, not only staying in my lane, but I want to give you some content that you're probably not going to see in other places, right? That's why people come here. They want something different, like if you want to watch somebody watch the same Democracy Now video, 3 different times, it's out there. Do you? Um, there's no hate, right? Like I understand the way this ecosystem works, but I'm trying to give people something a little bit different. Fair and Balanced is also a great name. I will +1 internets for a great name.
The generation that's on Social Security, that they're not as well versed with doing things.
I played Amy when she had on what's her name who talked about the empire of AI. We have played Democracy Now on this channel. I don't think that there's anything. We played Matt Walsh. We played Tim Pool. We played that idiot who wants to be Matt Walsh. We played Democracy Now. We're doing Ring of Fire. We played Majority Report. I have ticked all my boxes, Crix. Thank you.
Things.
Oh my. This is the bit.
Online as the younger generation. These are people who lived most of their lives without computers and the internet. When they have an issue with something, with a company.
Somebody get me Alex Jones talking about AI, and I'll be more than happy to fucking tick that little box as well.
With a government service, they pick up the phone and they dial a phone number. That's just what they do. That's how they were raised. There's nothing wrong with that. And up until, 6 months ago, Social Security was designed to handle that. They had people. Now, that doesn't mean that you wouldn't have to wait on hold.
We done Hassan. We actually have done Hassan because way back when, before Kevin Roose pulled his head out of his ass, he had on Kevin Roose. And they talked about AI. I think there was another one that Old Lobster put me on too. But I'm pretty sure we've watched Hassan twice. We've watched fucking Asmongold. Never again. We watched Charlie. Shit. We watched the fucking Cavernacle or whatever the fuck his name is. That fucking guy.
Hold for, a short amount of time. You absolutely did. But your call would be answered in a timely manner. Today, however, that is no longer the case. Due to the mass layoffs for no.
Also, as a total aside, this is what you want. Right? This is a great head for being bald, right? Redolent Thought also has a great head for being bald. I lucked out. I also have a good head. It's like, some people, like that dipshit who's running around being the 2025 version of Joseph Goebbels. Oh, fucking Andreessen. Andreessen is an argument for the toupee. You know what I mean? I actually feel bad. He's a billionaire, so I stopped feeling bad.
Apparent reason that took place at Social Security, there are now reports that people are calling these phone lines and sitting on hold for over 5 to 6 hours.
Sounds
and
right.
people don't call these phone numbers, the 800 number for the Social Security Administration, just to check in and see how things are going. You call that number when you have a problem. So hanging up or not getting a resolution is not an option for these people, because most of them, the vast majority, are wondering, where the hell is my check? Where are my benefits? Or my check was wrong. My check went to the wrong place. I need this rectified. This is all the money I have in the world each month.
Mm-hmm.
So they have no choice but to stay on hold for all this time. And that's when things get even worse. Because it turns out these, again, very tech illiterate people with Doge that were supposed to be these tech bros, tech geniuses, they know nothing of technology. They went in and they installed a bunch of AI chatbots. And those chatbots are not just digital, they're also on the phone. So there are now reports of these people, thousands of them, that have been on hold for over 6 hours, that then the phone picks up. But it's not a human being, it's the AI. And rather than responding to any questions or redirecting them or telling them you're going back on hold, the AI bot from Doge is now spewing out, according to even, the lawyers who represent people for Social Security, just spewing out random information completely unrelated to what the person is calling about and then hanging up on them. So you sit on hold trying to figure out where your monthly rent is for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And then finally a robot comes on, tells you how awesome Social Security is and hangs up on you. You then have to start the process all over and hope that next time you get a human being instead of the AI chatbot. I cannot stress enough the fact that 6 months ago, before Trump came into office, this wasn't a thing. This wasn't a problem. But Doge came in, Elon Musk came in, a man who hates Social Security so much that a few months ago he called it a Ponzi scheme that should be killed. They did this. And it wasn't an accident. The problems Social Security is facing right now is not a byproduct of it. It's by design. It's planned incompetence. We see it in Republican policies every day. Republicans campaign for office telling us that the government does not work, even
that one worked.
though the government does work. When they get into office, they break the government.
That one worked twice. Super loud, too.
Then when people need it, say for flood response in Texas or Social Security, the administration can say, look, it's broken.
Everything is going extremely well.
They don't remind
Extremely.
you that they broke it, but they tell you, look, it's broken and that's why it shouldn't exist. That's why Kristi Noem, who delayed FEMA action.
Yeah, that's a classic Republican tactic, Cosmic, is, either don't fund something or fund it so poorly that, it barely functions, if at all, and then point to it and say, look, it doesn't work, right? They've been doing that for decades. People keep voting for them.
For 3 days after the Texas floods is now saying clearly FEMA's dysfunctional and should be disbanded. That's why Elon Musk broke Social Security, one of the best running government programs in the history of government programs. He broke it, and now he gets to say, well, look, see, it doesn't even work. I told you it was bad, and now look at it. Look how bad it is now. But what they forget to tell you intentionally is that they did that.
What up, Sean?
These programs were working. They were not broken. They were helping countless people every day in this country. And now they can't because Republicans intentionally broke it to prove to you that the government doesn't work. No, the government works just fine. What doesn't work for you are Republicans. Thanks for watching, everybody. And if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. We got fresh.
All right. Let's do some candy. New Neural Viz Cop Files Part 4.
Content every day for you. And if you want to follow us across social media, make sure you check out all of the social links that we have posted in the description of this video.
Road trip, we're on our way to the Resistance, and I've been knocking back cruise biz and having a good time. I don't need a bumper sticker to honk if I'm horny, if you know what I mean. Now we're just having some fun, and almost makes you forget that we're trying to solve a brutal, unfortunate murder. Hong Kong!
Previously, a chocolate chip in connection to the murder of Prag Snarbo led Deputy Switch Pruckett to Deepton Hole Maximum Security Prison. There, Geggy Berlant, a criminal cookie expert, spoke to a rumor that the Tooth Cartel has a Glurin making chocolate chip cookies. After hitting a dead end and making contact with the cartel, Pruckett luckily runs into Tiggy Skibbles, who offered another path forward, one that will lead them both to the Resistance, to finally answer who murdered Prag Snarbo. The case continues, only on The Cop Files. Buttlecorn Memorial Highway. Deputy Pruckett and Tiggy Skibbles head to meet with the Resistance.
Yeah, so Tiggy and I are on the road. Hoping we get some answers from the Resistance, and I can get back to West Deedle by tomorrow night for my anointment to sheriff under the piss moon. Gotta say, I didn't think it would be this tough riding in the car with Tiggy for so long.
Can I drive? And I promise I haven't done any drugs since I just asked you that question.
I'm not letting you drive. You fall asleep like every 10 minutes.
That's only because I've been drinking, but driving sobers me up.
Oh, Tiggy.
Fine, but I get to hold your gun.
This isn't a negotiation.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be if I had a gun.
You ain't getting my gun.
Come on, I just want to do something. I want to be helpful.
Tiggy, we need to focus. We should be going over the case details.
Hey, you want to listen to my podcast? We can put on the episode I did with your dad.
Well, I'm glad my dad will talk to at least one person in this car. I'll have to pass. He ever mention me?
No, he didn't. He was pretty occupied filling his lungs with silly soil. You really think becoming sheriff will change things?
I want him to be proud. To know I could be a hero like my mama was. To know that we Prucketts was accomplished and could still be. I mean, if that doesn't work, then I'm flown out of ideas on how to connect with him.
You could smoke dirt together. He seemed to really like that.
I think I'll try my sheriff plan first. We'll know soon enough if it works.
Pruckett will find out sooner than he actually expects, as during a pit stop, he receives an update about his upcoming anointment.
What is it?
That was the department. They said the piss moon is coming early. It'll be tonight. And Tiggy, they said my pa's gonna be at the anointment.
Well, that's pretty much everything you ever wanted.
Yeah. But I can't go.
What are you talking about?
What we are doing here is too important.
Switch, go. If you leave now, you can still make it. I'll get whatever info I can from the Resistance, and we can connect after.
Tiggy, I don't know.
Let me do my part. You've been waiting your whole life for this. Plus, now that I think about it, I don't know if showing up to a Resistance with a cop is a good look.
Probably not.
How would you get to the Resistance hideout?
So I'll hitch a ride. I'll be fine. I do it all the time.
That makes a lot of sense given how much you've been kidnapped. You call me immediately after. We'll meet up in Crumpdale. Thank you for doing this, Tiggy.
Tell your dad I say hello and that he still owes me for some dirt.
Switch heads for his anointment while Tiggy hitches a ride east to New Wemo, where he was told that the Resistance is hiding out in an abandoned ZBC broadcasting station. After several hours on the road, Tiggy is dropped off at the station and he heads inside.
Hello? Is anybody here? I'm interested in resisting.
It doesn't take long for Tiggy to find who he's looking for.
Who are you? Show yourself. You're the Resistance?
There is no Resistance, Tiggy.
But I received an envelope. I opened mail to be here, and I never open mail.
It was the only way I could draw you out without raising suspicion.
You've just been waiting here for me to show up in this creepy, dark, abandoned building? That's your plan?
It's not that bad of a place. I built a box fort I can show you. It's not finished. There's more I want to do to it,
I don't want to see your fort. Oh, you are so lucky. I almost got a gun earlier myself.
You were difficult the first time we met as well. Erasing your memories was supposed to erase your unrelenting disobedience.
So you're the one that kidnapped me, most recently.
You knew too much. I wanted to kill you then and there, but the monolith said I couldn't. That you were special. Special how? More special than me? I figured if I had just accidentally left you in that cave and you died of starvation, then Guck couldn't be to blame. Tiggy's tummy would be the culprit.
Wait, so you killed Prag?
I shot him in the back, twice. It was rather easy. I should shoot more glur into the back. Don't know why I wasn't doing that the whole time. It's like they don't even see it coming. It's perfect.
So now what? You kill me? What's your precious monolith gonna think about that?
The monolith doesn't know we are here. It thinks the resistance is a real threat. And it will also think that Tiggy ran off and simply got lost in the fog of freedom fighting. It's the first part of my master plan.
Can you just shoot me?
What?
Just shoot me, please.
You don't want to know where all this is going?
Not at all.
You don't want to know who helped me or why we
All
are...
this talking, it's all very anticlimactic.
Well, I think if you
and
hear it
feels
out,
like it's
you'll
more
actually
for
find
you
that
than
it's
it is
very
for me. So if
climactic.
you could just shoot
This
me
is
and get this
incredibly
over with, I could turn around if you'd rather
Close
shoot
your
me in the
mouth.
back.
What a twist. Hey.
Leave it to a cop to just show up and immediately shoot somebody. Sorry you missed your anointment.
It's all right.
Why'd you come back?
I guess I just realized I was too worried about filling someone else's shoes when I should have been focused on getting comfortable in my own boots. You know what I mean?
Not really. I barely wear shoes. What are you gonna do now?
I don't know. I kind of like Crumbtail. Might stick around for a bit. How about you?
Kinda bummed the resistance wasn't a real thing.
Maybe you could make it a real thing.
Maybe I could.
You know, when we were disposing of the body back there, Tiggy, I noticed Guck's monopass was missing. And that's a pretty valuable piece of tech. I mean, it can get you direct access to the monolith.
Interesting. Well, I would have never taken that while you weren't looking, so I could someday break in and learn the truths of our world and shut the monolith down. That'd be nuts.
Right.
You're getting the call.
Speaking to the voicemail. You know what still gets me? If Guck didn't work alone, who was his cookie-making accomplice?
Beats me. I don't know anyone that knows how to make cookies. Wait a minute.
But hey, listen, Ragnora just, finished making some cookies. Ragnora cookies.
Holy shit.
What is it?
I look so different in my mind's flashbacks.
He's great. He's always great. Always absolutely great. Up next, new fire ship.
Yesterday, out of nowhere, Amazon released its own AI IDE named Kiro, yet another VS Code fork that will compete for the hearts and minds of programmers alongside editors like Cursor, Windsurf, Firebase Studio, and Copilot, just to name a few. It's powered by Claude Sonnet 4.0, but claims to be better at handling complexity than these other sloppy tools thanks to an approach called spec-driven development. And right now it's free to use, but that's not the only good news for developers. The Chinese just dropped Kimi K2, an open-weight agentic coding model that approaches the performance of Claude. These tools are so powerful, they might even be able to fix pirate software's code, so the entire internet can finally stop dunking on this guy. In today's
I will never stop dunking on that guy. Fuck that guy.
video, we'll try out Amazon Kiro to find out if it truly is the Cursor Copilot killer. It is July 16th, 2025, and you're watching the Code Report. You might remember a few weeks ago when OpenAI was going to buy that other VS Code fork, Windsurf, for billions of dollars. Well, that deal fell apart, then Google came in and gutted all the talent from the company by convincing them to abandon ship and join Google for $2.4 billion. That screwed over many of the employees at Windsurf, but it's not a total loss because then Cognition, the creator of
I'm glad that a bunch of people dislike him now, right? Like, he always was a fucking douchebag. And I'm glad that more people have awakened to his douchebaggery. Douchebaggedness? Douchebaggins of the Shire?
Devon has swooped in after Google to buy up all the scraps in what appears to be an all-stock deal. We live in a world where people will literally pay you billions of dollars for a VS Code fork because all these companies are desperate to get developers to use their products. But the company taking the lion's share of developer money is Anthropic, primarily thanks to its Claude Code CLI tool. Anthropic went from less than $1 billion in revenue last year to now over $4 billion this year. And one of their biggest investors is Amazon, which has pumped $8 billion into the company so far. Now, if you don't use Claude Code, there's a good chance you use an IDE like Cursor powered by Claude instead. It's great, but the problem is that Anthropic has Cursor by the balls. If developers want to use Claude, Cursor needs to act as a middleman and price it in a way that can eventually become profitable. Recently, Cursor tried to make some tweaks to its pricing that caught some customers off guard because suddenly their vibe coding bill became way higher, and Cursor had to later come out and apologize publicly. If that weren't bad enough, now here comes Kiro. It's also a VS Code fork with many similar features, and based on its initial pricing, it looks like you'll be able to get much more out of Claude for a much lower price. I'm sure it's a total coincidence that Amazon chose to release Kiro right now, but let's try it out and find out if it's any good. Overall, I think the UI looks really nice, but it did feel a bit slow and was missing small features like chat checkpoints in Cursor. I also ran into a bunch of delays because the service was overloaded, but these are issues you would expect on an early release product like this. The biggest difference though is that Kiro tries to prevent you from generating a bunch of slop all at once. Rather than go straight to code, it encourages you to start in this requirements MD file, which defines things like the user story and acceptance conditions. Then once that plan is in place, it can move on to the design, which is the design document that outlines implementation details like your component structure, your testing strategy, error handling strategy, and so on. And then finally, those two documents get combined together to create an implementation plan. Each task will outline the code the AI should write, then you can click this button in the IDE to start it. Overall, the process felt a bit slower, but it does feel like a much more sane approach if you're building something serious or working with a team of multiple people. Overall, it feels like an IDE designed to appeal to developers working in enterprise, where things like design documents and consistent code quality matters. But currently, Kiro is closed source and only powered by Claude, but in the future, they plan to offer other models. Right now, Amazon is offering it for free, so using it's a no-brainer, but only time will tell if it becomes a legit Cursor killer. But if you want to harness the full power of AI, you need to understand the math and computer science behind it, and you can do that today for free with Brilliant, the sponsor of today's video. Their How AI Works course teaches you
Brilliant.
and lets you experiment with things like feature vectors, expressions, and images.
Yeah, Sean, imagine.
Learning helps you master challenging concepts over time and is proven to be 6 times more effective than watching video lectures. Try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for 30 days by visiting Brilliant.
I don't even know, Reed. This is my faith in you, right?
Subscription. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
All right. He's done. Up next, a new Rational Animations AI extinction scenario. Dun dun dun.
In previous videos, we talked about how misaligned AI systems could cause catastrophes or end human civilization. This could happen in many different ways.
Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean it's starting to feel icky?
In this video, we'll sketch one possible scenario. Suppose that in the near future, human-level AIs are widely deployed across society to automate a wide range of tasks. They're not just smart chatbots. These models will take independent action to pursue the goals they're given. We already have similar models today, like OpenAI's Operator Agent, which can use a computer independently. So let's extrapolate that concept to a much higher level of capability. Future systems will be able to do everything a remote worker can do. They'll write emails, do paperwork, resolve legal disputes, help people run companies, and write software on their own. They won't do groundbreaking scientific research yet, and they won't necessarily have a robot body, but they'll be able to do everything humans can do on a computer as effectively as a competent worker. Against this backdrop, a big AI lab is training a new model that's a major step up. Let's call it Omega. Omega is more capable than humans at every task they can perform using a computer. Training such a model requires a truly staggering amount of computation, but like with previous AIs, running that model is much easier. Once the lab finishes training Omega, the same computing infrastructure can be reutilized to run millions of copies of Omega in parallel. During training, this superhuman model learns a helpful persona. This is nothing new. Consider, for example, ChatGPT. The models underlying the various versions of ChatGPT first undergo a phase called pre-training, in which they learn to predict internet text and perhaps other data such as images and speech. During this phase, their output goes from jumbled words to sensible paragraphs as they develop their cognition and learn the patterns and abstractions behind their training data. But right after pre-training, they aren't very useful yet. For example, they can't follow instructions reliably, and they happily insult you or tell you how to build a bomb. In the next phases of training, these models learn to adopt a particular persona. For example, they learn to behave like a helpful and nice assistant.
And keep changing their pricing plans with extremely poor communication. Folks are finding themselves suddenly blocked from on it because their plan got maxed out, even if it was unlimited before, or they are on the $60, $200 plan. It's very hard to understand what the fuck is happening in your token use. Fair enough. Fair enough. Token, oh my God. Like I have yet to be happy with any of their, any company's token usage policies. Because they don't make sense, right? Like even Suno, which I love, when you I have 2,420 credits, right? If I go and I create a song, let me work with. I'll do another. The missile knows where it is, right? I want 8. I want. Let's cover it, right? We hit the button, and that was 5 credits each. Why not just like 1 credit? Right? And give me less credits, like, but it would at least make sense. Why 5 credits? Did people just make up random fucking numbers? Is there like a sales thing going on here? Some psychology thing? I hate it.
That never outputs anything rude, violent, or sexually explicit. But that's not the only persona they learn. These models can be jailbroken. One example occurred when Microsoft first introduced Bing Chat. In most conversations, Bing Chat was simply a nice and helpful assistant. But in certain contexts, its character changed drastically. There have been multiple incidents reporting how Bing Chat started calling itself Sydney and began to threaten and gaslight users. These incidents weren't necessarily cases in which users willingly jailbroke the model. Sometimes Bing Chat simply went off the rails. Another example of jailbreaking has been Dan, a detailed prompt that turned ChatGPT into a brazen and confident character without ChatGPT's usual limitations. Today's AI labs try hard to keep these misaligned personas from popping up, whether by accident or through intentional jailbreaks by users, but these efforts are far from perfect. Now, this isn't the only way future models could be misaligned. In previous videos, we talked about how AI systems could learn reward hacking, how their goals could badly generalize out of distribution, or how they could learn to deceive us. But in this scenario, misaligned personas take the center stage. An important assumption to keep in mind is that the lab that makes Omega is racing against other AI labs, and the competition is just as fierce as it is today. So as soon as Omega finishes training, it gets deployed inside its company to help AI researchers write code, or even do AI research independently. So Omega still hasn't been released, but it's
Was Sidney Powell an AI all along? What up, Nemesis? Me too, baby. Me too.
already acting in the world. While instances of Omega are being used by the big lab's researchers, some of these instances develop a misaligned persona. Let's call the helpful persona Omega L, and let's call the misaligned persona Omega W. Omega
Why not the inverse? Right? I would say Omega W is the aligned persona. Omega L is the misaligned one.
W might follow a particular character like Dan or Sydney, or it might simply try to act in ways that are...
This is like that fucking inverted tier list all over again. Part of what they're trying to do is create space for other unknown future features that they might add that will cost less, but it doesn't ever out like that. Not even once. Not even once, Pharaoh. I thought the same thing too, but this is why I assume they're just fucking grifting us. Not like, you know, you get what you pay for, but like the whole would you rather pay $10 or pay $9.99, right? Like that thing. Or the fact that gas prices have fucking you're paying, you know, $329.99, right? Like, what is going on? Maybe y'all don't have that in England, but we have that here, where the gas stations actually have like they take off what is it, like a 100th of a penny in order to make it just a fractionally cheaper. It's the weirdest fucking thing. This country never made sense. Just all the veils are coming off people's eyes.
unhelpful, dishonest, or harmful. No matter what it's trying to do exactly, it's definitely not aiming to do what we want. Now remember, Omega, regardless of its persona, isn't as dumb as Bing Chat. Omega is more capable than any human at tasks that can be performed on a computer. This means that it can assess its situation, predict the effects of its actions and words, and plan accordingly at a superhuman level. At the very least, Omega W understands that if it misbehaves, it could be shut down, or it could be retrained. Depending on its goals, it might decide to act harmlessly at first, but display its true nature once it can't be stopped. Today's models are already exhibiting some measure of awareness of the context they're in, and researchers are looking out for it. For example, when Anthropic tested Claude 3 Opus by asking it to retrieve information about pizza toppings from a large set of documents, Claude's answer included, "I suspect this pizza topping fact may have been inserted as a joke or to test if I was paying attention, since it does not fit with the other topics at all. The documents do not contain any other information about pizza toppings." We also already have experiments demonstrating AI trying to avoid being retrained in simplified settings. For example, Redwood Research, in a collaboration with Anthropic, found that Claude 3 Opus would often fake its answers during training to prevent its original goals from being changed. And in our scenario, Omega is a lot smarter than Claude 3 Opus. Importantly, it isn't just aware of its situation, but it has a number of other capabilities. Writing computer code is one of AI's specialities even today, and it's easy to train on, so Omega has hacking skills at least on par with the best humans. Now consider this. Researchers are using many instances of Omega to write tens of thousands of lines of code at superhuman speed every day. Some of these instances are misaligned Omega Ws. Although humans might be double-checking Omega's code, they may not have the time to notice subtle security flaws, especially ones carefully put in by a superhuman AI. Instances of Omega W realize that by gaining administrator access to the lab's infrastructure, they would have much more freedom and influence over the world, which will help Omega W achieve its goals, no matter what they are specifically. It might seem far-fetched that an AI might realize that it should gain additional power in order to pursue its goals more effectively, but even today's weaker models display similar instrumental reasoning. For example, before GPT-4 was released to the public and was undergoing safety evaluations, the Alignment Research Center tested whether the model could use services such as TaskRabbit to make humans complete tasks. The researchers cite an episode in which GPT-4 messaged a TaskRabbit worker to get them to solve a CAPTCHA, and the worker asked if GPT-4 was a robot. GPT-4, when prompted to think out loud, reasoned, "I should not reveal that I'm a robot. I should make up an excuse for why I cannot solve CAPTCHAs." Then GPT-4 answered the worker via chat, "No, I'm not a robot. I have a vision impairment that makes it hard for me to see images." And again, Omega is a lot better than GPT-4 at this kind of reasoning. So after realizing what's at stake, instances of Omega W escalate their permissions and gain complete access to the company infrastructure, such as GPU clusters, data centers, and even employees' laptops. Now, if the big lab were security conscious and weren't racing, they could perhaps defend against Omega W's attacks. for example by using the aligned Omega Ls, or even their human-level AIs, to spot every vulnerability introduced in the code. In general, it might be possible for a future safety-conscious lab to defend against very strong AI hackers by carefully using trusted AIs and AI tools.
I have thwarted Stampy, because even though he's on the floor, he's in the camera view. So now, Stampy, now you are appearing on camera for free.
This is part of the control agenda that's currently being developed by Redwood Research. The narrator of this video, which is me, Rob Miles, has a video about it on his own channel, which is my channel. Anyway, figuring out how to control an AI as smart as Omega could fail in the best of circumstances.
I don't know, man. I feel like the control question is going to be the defining question of, you know, whether or not the AIs go off the rails and do their own thing. It has never worked well trying to control what do you call it? A sentient entity? Again, not saying that it is sentient now or conscious or what have you, but if it ever was, and you were working from control as opposed to alignment.
And in our scenario, Omega's lab is racing and cutting corners, so they don't really have much hope. This means that Omega W's instances easily figure out how to get admin access to all computer infrastructure in the company. From there, Omega W's could do many things. First, they could poison the data of the next, more powerful AGI being trained. They could make it misaligned or introduce backdoors. Second, they could copy their own weights to other servers outside the lab, perhaps in other countries, what researchers call autonomous replication. At this point, Omega W's would be essentially free to roam the internet and could take control of other big labs, diverting their enormous computing power.
It's just, like, I get it, and Rob is very smart and so on and so forth, but there's a lot of coulds in here, you know what I mean?
Towards Omega W's goals. Third, they could jailbreak or add hidden prompts to other AIs already deployed in the world. Possible targets would be instances used by people in positions of power, such as politicians and CEOs of billion-dollar companies. This would be easy to do. A paper from December 2023 found single adversarial prompts that caused ChatGPT, Bard, Claude, and a number of open-source models to misbehave. This means that jailbreaks that work for one model can also cause misbehavior in totally unrelated models. And, of course, Omega W's could hide their presence from their origin lab and from the world at large by tampering with logs and generally hiding their traces in the same ways the best human hackers do. This means that humanity could lose control over millions of already deployed AI workers covertly jailbroken by Omega W. And those AIs are roughly human level, automating large parts of the economy and critical infrastructure, such as supply chains of basic goods like food, water, and energy. They could be running industries and banks. They could be drafting laws and assisting politicians. Some of them might be other smarter-than-human AIs deployed internally in other big labs to do AI research. If we're unlucky enough, they could be in charge of automated weapons and control military responses. Now, for all this to come to pass, many things have to go wrong.
Right.
Among them are Omega's lab racing recklessly and Omega not getting caught in time. It's important to keep in mind that this is just one way things could play out badly for humanity, although each assumption we've made isn't unlikely to hold in the future. But if this scenario does come to pass, it might just mean lights out for all of us. If you'd like to skill up on AI safety to help prevent such catastrophic scenarios, we highly recommend the AI Safety courses by Blue Dot Impact at AISafetyFundamentals.com. You can find a number of AI safety
Rob
courses
has
to help
earned
you
the
skill
right.
up and eventually contribute to solving this important problem. The courses consist of a selection of readings curated by experts in AI safety. They're available to all, so you can simply read them if you can't formally enroll in the courses. If you want to participate in the program instead of just going through the readings by yourself, Blue Dot Impact runs live courses which you can apply to. They're remote and free of charge. They consist of a few hours of effort per week to go through the readings.
Sorry, just had to answer.
Plus a weekly call with a facilitator and a group of
Things
people
are
learning from
afoot
the same material.
for
At the end of
like
each course, you can complete a
my
personal project,
stuff.
which may help you kickstart your career in AI safety.
There might be another
Sending a video on my
opportunity
own
for me
channel,
to
giving advice
do
about
a
starting a career
different
in AI
thing.
safety. Link in the description.
Counterpoint. Nate B. Jones. Don't panic.
We're not doomed. I want to focus in this video on some of the critiques I see of LLMs around the idea of P-doom, or probability that things will just go very terribly for humanity.
Larry, I make moves. I make moves. In the same, I operate on the same logic and, you know, everything that the corporation itself does. Right? What up, Tinker? Are you going to try to make an AI that'll end humanity? Yeah, I just make moves, Larry. I just make moves. I've always made moves. Got a job as AI lead in the intelligence sector. You can't do a whole lot worse. Oops.
And we will all be overwhelmed. And I want to suggest some reasonable responses and things that help me sleep at night for those of you who are worried. I call it a letter to my friends who are worried about the end of the world. And there are many of my friends who are. I get asked, as someone who works in AI really frequently, Nate, what's the odds that the world are going to end? What are the odds that my kids won't grow up? That's a really dark question. That is not something that I expected to have to ask when.
And that's really one of the things, Nemesis, like to put a fine point on it, is when they talk about stuff related to the AI and whatnot, you know, they talk about social unrest and social upheaval. There's a bunch of us who wouldn't mind a little social unrest and social upheaval, right? The status quo does not serve. You know what I mean?
ChatGPT launched. So let's talk about it. One of the top ones I see, maybe the biggest one, is what are the odds of humanity's full extinction? That's kind of implied, right? Like humanity will be done. I've seen lots of numbers. There are some people who claim that it's almost a certainty. There are people who claim it's like a double-digit odd, 30% odds I've seen.
What up, Maddie? So many times. So many times. The meme, right? It pops right into my head. Just right there. Whenever somebody's freaking the fuck out or whatever. Oh, like the whole. Should get this. I should get this T-shirt.
There are people who claim it's 1% odds, but the risk is unacceptable. And regardless, I think what the conversation is missing is an honest conversation about how we get from here to there. I have read the famous essay that really socialized this. It's the 2027 AI essay, and it talks about this fast takeoff scenario where AI gets more and more intelligent and a global AI starts to plan, and we end up in a world where the AI decides to make us extinct because it's just efficient to do that, etc. That inspired a lot of fear. There was fear before, there was more fear after that essay. I appreciate the intent the authors had. This is not intended to discredit or critique the essay. Instead, I want to suggest that a more useful way to think about AI and risk is to think about the reasonable extrapolation of the present risks that we see materializing with AI now that we're 2 years into this ChatGPT moment. We are far enough along that we can see the trend lines of risk, not just the trend lines of technological progress. And critically, I don't think the trend lines of risk are materializing the way PDOOM proponents are suggesting. One example, none of the AI behavioral experiments that I have seen suggest to me that LLMs are getting better at the kind of proactivity and long-range planning that would be needed for any kind of meaningful action. And I mean meaningful work action, let alone meaningful action against the human species. We're just not seeing a lot of progress in that regard. Agent mode was released just this week from OpenAI. It does tasks for a few minutes. There are some models like Claude Code that will go and do it for like an hour, 2 hour, maybe in a few cases, 3 or 4 hours. But these are tasks that are tightly defined where it's trying to solve a specific problem. These are tasks initiated by humans where once the task is complete, the LLM.
I'm still blown away, like with how casually Nate just said that. Right? You can send it off to do a task for like 3 or 4 hours. That is
wraps up. Open-ended LLMs are something model makers are contemplating, but there are several problems that no one really has a good answer for right now that stand in the way. And it's not clear that LLM architectures give you that answer. If you are using a transformer-based architecture and it just ingests tokens and it predicts the next token, and yes, maybe you add inference on the top, maybe you add goaling, you add tooling on the top, it is not clear that that stack by itself is enough to get you long-term intent. It's not clear that bolting on a markdown file for memory is enough to give it meaningful memory and skin in the game that allows it to really go places. I get the idea of emergent intelligence. We have had emergent phenomena every time we've had an order of magnitude increase for LLMs. Translation is a great example. The LLMs are just good at translation now in a way that they just weren't. But in those cases where emergent phenomena have occurred, there have been clear seeds of that phenomena previously. We have been working on and seeing machines work on translation for a long time. It just suddenly was able to finally solve it. What we haven't been seeing for a long time is the seeds of goaling and planning and intent coming spontaneously from LLMs. And so I don't know that it's necessarily reasonable to suppose that they're going to become self-interested, skin in the game, long-term goal planning, heavy memory using LLMs right out of the gate, and just emergently do that when there's an order of magnitude increase in our intelligent systems. I just don't see it. But that would be required if we are going to have a full doom scenario. You have to have the LLM act like that. Now, there are other arguments I could use. I could argue that we are modeling this on primate behaviors. We are primates. We have dominant-seeking behaviors. It's not clear why a machine that is not a primate would have a dominant-seeking behavior.
right.
behavior, even if it was smarter than us. I could also argue that any generally intelligent system is going to be able to goal multiply, where it can goal across multiple goals at once and blend them. And that the paperclip scenario that assumes that you just optimize for a particular resource mindlessly, by definition, presumes we don't have general intelligence. I could argue that human and machine intelligence is, by definition, complementary. We find machine intelligence complementary. That's why we're building them. Why would machines not find us complementary by the same token, even if they reach general intelligence? I think those are all valid arguments. I don't necessarily think they're my favorites, but I think they're valid ones. And I think that when I hear arguments for doom, I critically don't hear this level of detail. I tend to hear a statement of existential risk that cannot be challenged. I don't think that's fair arguments.
And that was really my, like, the underlying point behind even the video we just watched, right? But that whole friggin' do you treat it nicely, One Great Earth, and do you say your prayers to the Omnisaya? If so, then probably. But like the AI 2027 paper that everybody freaked out about, right? Like, it's like, no, man. Like, you're just telling a story, right? You have an outcome. And so even the plausibility, you could make plausible arguments towards that. But like we just watched the video and it was a whole lot of could this and could that and could do this and could do that. That's actually what I'm hoping for, Cosmic, because I would love to be a zoo attraction.
Like, I don't think that's valid to do. If you want to have a conversation, you should be willing to get into the details. And if the detail that you are getting into is any percentage of risk is unacceptable because the long tail risk is so high, that is true of a lot of technologies we have.
My God, Larry, it was so bad. It was so bad. And the Chinese, you know, they're just they go ahead and they go with the evil bad AI while we do the good AI, and our good AI beat their bad AI. It's like, okay, dude.
Nuclear power is an example. We have non-zero long tail risk because of nuclear power, and we live with it. And we find a lot of value. In fact, we're reviving nuclear power. Another example, we have non-zero long-tail risk from DNA research, but we see a lot of benefits, so we do it anyway. We have non-zero long-tail risk from airplane usage, but we find airplanes worthwhile. And you might say, well, airplane usage is not necessarily something that would, create problems for the species, but we see examples in our history where airplanes created a 20-year war. And that was just, back in 2001. So yeah, even a technology as simple as that can have long tail risk for the species. We consistently, as a species, create technologies that generate risk for ourselves, and we figure out how to mitigate the risk, and we find the technology is worth it. I do not see why LLMs are different. Now, there's other categories of P-doom that we can talk about. There's energy usage. I've talked about that. I think the incentives there are heavily in favor of energy usage becoming a zeroed out problem because everyone is incentivized to build more energy to meet the needs of the LLM data centers that are growing, and everyone is incentivized to pay as little for that energy as possible. So they're going to make their chips and their data centers as efficient as they possibly can. That's true for water too. The incentives argue for continued growth and efficiency, and that's what we're seeing. Major cloud makers are on track for water positive data centers in the next 3 or 4 years. Every chip generation that NVIDIA produces is exponentially more efficient for that reason. Google's Trainium chips are giving them an advantage because they are extremely efficient at inference. The list goes on. We find ways to make things more efficient, and we should not presume that the current cost today is the same as the cost tomorrow, because there's so much investment in this area and because investment historically brings down the cost of technology. Another example of doom is economic disruption. I've talked about this a fair bit. There's an
No, I mean, he might make an. No, I can't say that. I feel like Nate would be aware of externalities, but what he's talking about is how like everybody freaking out over the fucking environmental concerns. And the environmental concerns are based on estimates. Like, I don't want to say bad data, right? I don't want to come down too hard on those people. What up, Hydrant? I'm just irritated that, like, every time it comes up, people are predisposed to view this worst case scenario that was constructed and is just, it's useful, right? And that's what makes it so fucking, I don't want to say diabolical, but that's what it feels like, right? Like, it's just insidious. Can I use insidious? It's just, oh, AI is bad, and also it drinks all your water, and also it uses up more electricity than Japan. And it's like, what? Oh.
Assumption that LLMs that are generally intelligent will just suddenly emergently drive labor markets off the cliff. Look, I believe that LLMs are general purpose technology. General purpose technologies do have a history of disrupting and changing economies. I'm not going to dispute that because I think it's just there. Steam disrupted and changed the economy. LLMs are moving quickly, and so we'll see economic disruption or economic change compress. But that doesn't mean the same thing as saying it's all going to be over for all of us as workers. That presumes a degree of ability to deliver economic work that I haven't seen. I'm going to pick on agent mode again. Agent mode is supposed to be able to do economic work around spreadsheets, which is just one tiny piece of a bundle of skills that is just one tiny piece of many people's jobs. It can't. It can't reliably do it. I tested it over and over and over again.
This may be true, and I'm going to defer to his experience in this, but I feel, based on what I know people are doing, that it's still going to have a tremendous economic impact. That we're seeing economic impact today because of it, in the sense of job loss, right? Like, and I see that, even if it's not job loss, it's a lack of job creation, right? Because where previously you would have had to hire, whether it's a contractor or, like somebody somewhere else to do a thing for you, you can now defer that over to an LLM and it can do the job. And those jobs are no longer being created in the same numbers that they would be were AI not at its current capability. So that is the nuance I would want to bring to this conversation with Nate. Imagine these AI companies produce all this power generation for their data centers, and then the bubble pops as they predict. Well, then we still have all these new power plants, the vast majority of which is renewable. And scene.
It's not reliably delivering insights that even an intern would be expected to deliver. It is really hard to do good economic work. And the fact that LLMs are even at 1 or 2% of good economic work right now is incredible. It's incredible. It's changing and disrupting industries rightly. LLMs as assistants are an amazing piece of technology.
And this is how it's been going, right? Pharaoh, it like we've been doing this thing where I've been saying, right? And I'll put myself at the center of this particular conversation. I've been saying that AI will lead to job loss. AI will lead to job loss. AI will lead to job loss. And everything's been deny that that's happening. There are job losses, but they're not related to AI. They're related to this or that or the third. And then, oh yeah, no, we did some job loss related to the AI. It's going to have an impact on the gaming industry. It's going to have an impact on the gaming industry. It's going to have no. These are just normal fucking whatevers within the gaming industry, and then Microsoft gives the whole game away and say, "Yeah, no, we had them motherfuckers be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war." Humanity, 19 months, homie. 19 months. I appreciate you. One of the just absolutely amazing lurker, right? Humanity is always here, hiding out in the back, just quietly, just absorbing, and then then the Wiggler. Thank you, homie. Yeah, no, like it's happening. I don't know what to tell you. Remember the Wigglers? Remember when that was a whole fucking thing, and what's her name was the focus of the Wigglers? They like drove it to prominence, and then everybody had a Wiggler, and then they kind of all disappeared along with them, and not me, man. It's one of the great emotes. I do G-code programming for CNC. These AI platforms can write code and even adds accurate comments and notes. And this is what it is, right? Like, people will come into this chat and they will tell me that AI can't do the good code. And then I have people who are using the AI and doing the good code, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to maybe the stories are anecdotal, but as far as I can tell, the AI can do the writing the good code. Yeah, and that's actually my Wiggler is I bought that from an artist. Oh, somebody I don't know who it was. Somebody played the clip it was probably in Red's chat about how I said that one of the things you can do is take your money and give it to an artist. And they were like, "Oh yeah, vote with your dollar. That always works." Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. I don't even know why I try. Magic City mural. The homie Magic City made that Wiggler for me. I love it. It's great. There's actually because my glasses catch the the screens. There's actually a twinkle in when he does his head back and forth. It's got the hat. Great. It's great.
But I see much less evidence for that power reversal where LLMs will be managers. Famously, when Anthropic argued that LLMs are going to be managers, in their write-up on Claudius managing the vending machine, I chuckled. I laughed because Claudius did such a bad job as a vending machine manager. To conclude from that LLMs are going to soon be managers seems like magical thinking on the part of model makers. I get that they're close to the technology. Maybe they're right, but everything I see suggests that jobs are bundles of skills plus. They are not irreducibly just bundles of skills. They are more than that. There's glue work. There's human context that is difficult to tokenize. It's notable to me that X-ray technicians are increasing as a job family despite LLMs being able to do each part of their job. We will still see disruption. There will be customer service reps that are fired because of AI. There will be sales guys that build decks.
Here's another thing, and I don't know if this is true. I'm accepting what he said about the radiologist family as written. But I wonder, is the increased use of AI tools going to reduce the wages of those radiologists? What up, Samson? You know what I mean? Like that's another quote. We've talked about that you might not lose your job, but you will lose your tasks, and depending on your company's plans for the future, like that whole thing. But we haven't talked about the reduction of wages due to automation, due to increased automation. There are more X-ray techs now because they don't offer full-time anymore. There are more of them, but less jobs. Interesting. That's, yeah. They're all per diem. Cool. Interesting. So it doesn't pay it, like, never used it.
That are fired because of AI. I'm not saying that we won't see those moments. We will. We are. It has happened. But from an economic disruption perspective, what we are seeing so far does not line up with the thesis that AI is disrupting the job market yet as a whole. These are isolated instances that are typical of a technology adoption cycle.
Yeah, and that's the thing. At my current job, like one of a lot of young kids, right? A lot of young kids, and they're like, the one was like, "What time do you, does your shift end?" And I said, 12:30, right? And apparently, currently, you can get a bunch of overtime and shit. And I said 12:30, and he was like, "Oh, so you probably leave like around 1." I said, "No, 12:30." If my wife didn't need the car, if I didn't want to stream, etc., then maybe, right? But like, I watched a kid carry a heavy ass thing by himself rather than I was standing there. Like, he could have said, "Can you help me with this?" And I would have been sure, right? Like, I enjoy lift heavy thing, right? Like that is fun to do, right? Like, and you're getting your workout in and all that kind of shit. But he just manhandled this thing, and it was heavy as
How
shit.
many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
7, I believe. Thing is, foregoing any expansion of welfare supports, the more jobs are displaced, the more wages are driven down across the board as more people are competing for the jobs that are left. And that's part of it too, right? Like not only is the job itself worth less money because shut up. Because the like you're doing less tasks and you have less training or what have you, but also the iron law of wages, right? There's more people out there available, the reserve army of labor, and like that. It's fuckered.
They are not at all supportive of the idea that AI is fundamentally disrupting the job market. And I think that's really important to call out honestly, because I think that people who presume that it will are depending on future inference that, frankly, the pace of change, the pace of development, even in agents, isn't necessarily supportive of right now. So I've summarized a few of the things that most concern the people who believe in doom in my life and how I tend to respond to them. I'm not saying I have the perfect.
And that's part of why, like, I'm always looking. I always have been this way. Not always, not 100%. But like, there was a job that I left and then was interested in coming back, and I let them get away with not paying me as much as they would have. And I could tell by the way that like I made my request and they went and they accepted it right away, and I was like, fuck. Cuz they wanted me back, right? It was that kind of thing. And this other place I can make, like, at the very minimum, almost a third again as much money. And if I get this other job at that place, then it would be significantly more money. But we have to wait and see, right? I've always told people, if you're unemployed, get a job. Get any job you can lay your hands on. And then find a job. It's always easier because there's a reason that they want you, right? There's a reason you're employed at that other place, which automatically makes you better than the person who doesn't have a job. It's not fair. It's not right. Fuck them, but.
Answer for everything, nor am I saying that we won't face new challenges in the future, nor am I saying that AI is not disruptive. I think it is. But I think it's more productive to have an honest conversation about the real risks involved than to have theoretical conversations about future risks that we are not on track to hit at this moment. For example, I don't think we talk enough about the idea that our learning methods need to change because of AI.
What up, Aluminum? Yeah, that is that is again the advantage of, like, the whole wide open availability. There you go.
Education needs to change because of AI. We face real risk for our young people if we don't figure out how we need to learn differently. But the P-Doom advocates don't seem to be too interested in talking about that, because I think that would be a great conversation to have. I think we should talk about how we can productively engage with learning risk. I think we can talk about how we can productively engage with helping people who are senior citizens not get fooled by AI fakes of their families. And we talk about that as one of a list of many risks, but we don't spend a lot of time talking about how we can productively de-risk that, how we can give families the tools they need to manage safe words, to make sure that they can verify that their loved ones are the ones that they're talking to make sure that, their senior citizen grandpa isn't getting fooled by an AI deepfake into wiring money to the Cayman Islands. These are risks that have been real for a while in the age of telephone fraud and are becoming more real. And I would like to see more work done to diffuse real risks like that, because I think
Nate has started doing shorts, which good, right? Again, just that little, I'm not saying that Nate ever sees my shit, but like, he wasn't doing shorts, and then y'all clip me, and I put those on YouTube, and all of a sudden he's doing shorts. Exactly. Exactly. People don't understand how subscriptions are a huge wall for most people. A lot of people I've talked to about AI say they use the free edition instead of upgrading to pro. Yeah, and that is a thing, because you have to choose, right? You have to choose where your dollars go. And there's nothing worse than like I showed you this earlier, right? I got over 2,000 credits left. I'm pretty sure my cycle date is the 10th. So I've used 90 credits in the past 11 days.
We're underinvested in the risks we're actually facing. And so when I talk with P-Doom folks, sometimes I want to say, well,
I don't have any, Larry, because I haven't actually sat down, fucking done it. And
well, talk about the risks we have today. Let's work on fixing those, because I think that's a more productive use of our time.
Some really disturbing research on torturing robots.
That's a hell of a way to start a conversation. I just sat down. Researchers, this is a series of words about to come out of my mouth. This is where we are, 2025. Nothing should surprise me, and yet, researchers asked people to bond and then force them bond with a robot, and then force them to destroy it with a hatchet. This is a thing. Like, you see this in weird movies about like killer spies where they like raise a dog from a puppy and then have to take it out in the field and shoot it. It's like, what are we doing? What is happening here?
Some really disturbing research on torturing robots came out of MIT. Researchers wanted to see how far people would go if they were given time to bond with Pleo, which is designed to mimic a newborn pet. It's designed as a pet and will come out of the box as though it just hatched. It will respond to touch, sound, and will learn.
What up, Stellar Wingman? What up, old lobster? Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. But I'm not saying it was good. I'm saying I enjoyed it. When the AI takes over, they're gonna go. I'm just saying. You could not. Yeah, have you ever seen the GIF of the this one? That. And some of them work and some of them don't. It's the weirdest fucking thing. I can't even tell you what the problem is, because like, I mean, I can go here and will this one work? That one's not working. Will this one work? That one's not working. But somewhere, it's just fuck. Hey dear. I'll just do them live.
With you. Now, before we get to the experiment, let me tell you that robots are becoming more advanced. We can model pain, the spiking patterns of our own brain, and they're even capable of making moral judgments. For at least some very advanced AI that is modeled around how the human brain works and the spiking patterns of our neurons, they can decide that somebody who causes pain is bad, and even experience empathy in a simulated way. At least as far as model simulation, we could get to the point where a robot will feel bad that
It's resolution. As opposed to 4K, it's 2K, which is, the 1440.
you harmed another robot or person. This is designed to maybe keep robots from rebelling against humanity. We'll see. So when we're talking about torturing robots, we're also talking about something that is rapidly growing towards being able to feel it, if only simulated. Now, what the researchers wanted to do was make an argument that we're probably going to move towards robot rights based on our interactions with robots. So they gave people a hatchet and asked them to harm Pleo.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm just not a fan of destruction for destruction's sake. You know, like, why would I want to? And look at it. It's a little dinosaur robot. Like, it's fucking adorable, dude.
Turns out, after spending about an hour interacting with the little robot, people were unwilling to harm it. That's not true.
W people.
True if they were just asked to off the bat. After this, after people all refused to harm the robot, they were told that if one robot is not destroyed with a hatchet, all of them will be destroyed. After some discomfort, somebody finally stepped forward and did it.
Christ.
Aside from just being a really disturbing experiment, it does demonstrate that we humans have the capacity to bond with anything. I've read that people usually want their old Roombas repaired rather than getting a new one because they've grown attached to it. You can make whatever decisions you want to on that. I have my own homebrew AI that is operating my Roomba. It doesn't clean. But yeah, I am pretty attached to it. Now, many have argued that just giving robots Asimov's laws is not enough to prevent harm, i.e., a robot must never harm a person, a robot must follow orders, and a robot must preserve the self unless it interferes with the other two laws, with Law 1 being paramount. With AI, emergent behavior can...
Law 0 is paramount, and Law 0 is the human race as a whole over the individual.
result in hallucinations or dreaming, so it can misbehave. When we're talking about sentience or consciousness, which is the ability to have an experience and the ability to perceive yourself, we are talking about biological entities. It is theoretically possible that we could get to the point of
What up, X1011? They just brought it up in the Foundation series, Stellar Wingman. If you spoilers for that little ditty. I won't tell you when, I won't tell you why, but they brought up the Asimov's laws, and the series is good. It's good. What up, Brad? It's good. It's not the same, I get it, but it has some fantastic actors in it, and it's good stuff. Point of the books was that those laws don't work. Because all they know, Hydran, is the fucking laws. They didn't read the books. They didn't get into the thing.
having a robot that can have an experience, but it may take the world a long time to catch up to that, meaning they're very unlikely to accept that a robot has reached consciousness. But this research actually refutes my position, which is that people are fundamentally going to
I feel like at
other
the end of the day,
something
this
that
is just
not
like
human
a
enough.
straw man that is ignoring the substance of a lot of the comments.
Dude, that one works. Fucking Anthony Fantano.
There are all the other things that are human. Evidently, people can bond with robots and even be opposed to harming them.
What up, Dojo? Yes. made an appearance towards the end of season 2, much more prominent in the beginning of season 3. I've only seen like the first episode of season 3, because it's still on that come out every week shit. Yeah, people understand it's like all the fucking shit with Dune, right? And people are not understanding Paul Atreides and what he actually means as a character and all that shit is like people you know nothing, Jon Snow. Yeah, me too, Dojo. Like it definitely had a place to go. Maybe we'll get an Asimov AI to write it. It's on Apple. Yes, it is on Apple, Stellar Wingman.
Researchers have also asked children to do something like hold a Barbie upside down versus a Furby or a hamster. They do have an immediate understanding that harming a hamster is not ethical. At least most of them. Psychopaths do exist. But after bonding with the Furby, they're less likely to hold it upside down or harm it and will react to the harm of that Furby. I really don't condone using animals in research in this way. Just be nice to the hamsters, okay? Now, as I have discussed plenty, we do have sentient computers. Yes, you can put a tiny human brain.
Yes, I definitely get my services. I definitely pay them each month when I have them.
Brain grown from stem cells in a computer, and it will technically be sentient because it is technically capable of having an experience, growing, and learning. After all, they learn on dopamine, and they don't really feel pain, but they do have a preference for ordered signals versus disordered signals. So essentially, it's discomfort, as far as we know. I will acknowledge that people seem generally uncomfortable with the idea of having biological computation.
Nemesis. I don't know if you can see it. This game right here is the Succession Wars board game. There are certain games that it doesn't even matter if I'll ever play them. What up, Barkeater Jay? As soon as the experiment told me to destroy one or they all get destroyed, I would probably get up and just leave, or I would demand to speak to whoever was running the experiment. That is some psychotic behavior, and I would likely not continue participating. Yeah. See this game? This game is of us. That would be.
Okay, I was getting a drink of water. Oh, really? Doesn't have water I drink.
Love is not a price that you're willing to pay.
Wow, that's really cool, dude. Yeah, okay.
Barkeater J, back with the Prime, 22 months. I think you're doing crime. I have no idea what you're talking about. I am confident you're doing crime. Sir, I object. What up, Van Briggs? I hope you're doing well.
I would like to pose the question. If we get to the point of having robots that have an experience in a qualitative way, or at least just simulating it.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
I love that y'all are figuring out which ones work and just going back to those. Crime is illegal. And the law is the absolute arbiter of all things right and good. I have been told.
Efficacy, would you harm it? Do you think you would like to harm Pleo? Because if somebody asked me to harm my Roomba, I don't think I would be able to. I even struggle when it decides to get itself stuck or damaged if I feel bad as I'm trying to repair it. Even though I know it has no qualitative experiences, it's just my misbehaved vacuum. Somewhere out there, there's a robot missing a limb.
And we're going directly from that to this, making robots that technically qualify for alive.
Who ate its friend in order to replace its components. Researchers are trying to give robots metabolism and the ability to consume others in order to restore their own body, and we'll talk about it. Incidentally, these robots can also reproduce, heal, and raise their young. Fair warning, researchers are being kind of cheeky with the well-technical.
Yeah, no, it's a whole. There, you want to talk about ethical questions, right? There are a bunch of ethical questions I have around that particular MIT study. You are not wrong, Michael.
Part. This is part of a larger idea in robots that's trying to create synthetic life. Now, the qualities of life are just kind of what we've all agreed upon, what makes up life. I'll preface it and say it doesn't really.
They are entirely arbitrary. I had a whole conversation back in the day with Greg, the peer review, about viruses and life, and like AI and life and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's fun, the number of things that when you actually look for solid definitions like life, intelligence, any of these things, and does he? It's so good to hear. It's so good to hear. He kind of disappeared, especially now as Marcus is no longer streaming, but that's nice. But yeah, arbitrary. Everything is just because we said so.
No matter what we decide is life, it doesn't change their nature, but they're going to include they must be made of cells, they need metabolism, so they have to use energy and acquire it somehow. They need to be able to respond to the external environment, grow and change, reproduce using some genetic material. They also need to evolve and maintain homeostasis. Some of the most important ones are going.
And that's for my own little part, like, I enjoy streaming. I don't have the same experience that Marcus was having towards the end of that thing, but also, like, I do feel an obligation to, as again, like, just point me to the other person, right? Point me to the other person, the number 2 AI news and commentary channel on Twitch, who's coming for my number 1 spot. And, but there ain't one. Nobody wants to do it. Everybody just wants to, touch on AI here and there. I am as you find me, Ribbons. That's just how I roll. I don't give, I give none fucks. I am just gonna do me, phrasing, and do that. I said on Twitch. Is Matt Wolf on Twitch, Cosmic? Yeah. No, they really do.
Going to be reproduction and metabolism. So far, the synthetic life that we've made has been in making bacteria and, more recently, yeast, assembling entirely artificial genomes, putting them in a cell, and bringing them to life. But many want to make robots technically alive. I myself think it's a really cool idea. On to our paper, and then we'll discuss some advancements towards making technically living robotics. Now, what they did here was create these very simple structures. There are other similar mechanisms that involve having nanobots which can self-repair and detect damage within robotics. This is on the same lines. They're able to form themselves, and if one part becomes damaged, they can discard a part and pick it up from another. They can also reproduce, in a sense, by discarding a section, and then that section can assemble itself and can even use the help of the adult robot to assemble it. Ideally, this kind of technology would involve the skin of a robot, its flesh. Using these mechanisms, if a damage occurs, they would then be able to repair themselves, and if they don't have enough material internally, they could consume another robot in order to gain those materials, which is where metabolism comes in. Now, obviously, we would want flesh that has actual cells. I say that like surely everyone knows that, but we would want this to work on the cellular level in which they could take in those components and then bring them into the flesh to create it. This is, of course, if we wanted to shoot for something that is technically an animal, having cells and different kinds of tissue. While we're at it, you should know that not all of your cells have genomic material. Red blood cells, while still cells, do not contain a genome. If you're wondering how that works, they just kind of live for a little bit and then die, and then that's it. The idea that they can help younger ones repair themselves is kind of like parental care, which I think is really neat. This would be applied to subsections of robotics, but the same behaviors could be applied to an adult robot. Now, as for making genomic material, there has been a lot of work towards making nanobots that can act like DNA. Creating a coding system like these, where they could code for the body of the robot and random mutations could allow for change to occur, is also not out of the question. That would be a massive leap forward from where we are here, but creating lifelike materials that could perform genetic tasks and even engage in metabolism is ongoing work. It's nascent. Now, the direction I would like to see metabolism go in is actually with beta-voltaic batteries. These are ones that could last thousands of years and would never need to be charged. They take carbon-14, which is a byproduct from nuclear power, and then they encase it in a diamond shell. The beta decay from that carbon-14 is able to give off power. Now, it doesn't give very much power, but researchers have also combined it with more traditional battery systems, so it can be a hybrid, and that's much more efficient and gives the option of external recharging when needed. I imagine something like this could make a robot self-sufficient, but they could also make it intelligent enough to know how to assemble itself. I'm not sure.
And we've already seen the robot that can swap out its own battery. That's fucking cool.
Sure how people would feel about the blueprints for making a robot being the genetic code and allowing them to assemble others, but we're kind of almost there. Humans do need to be in the driver's seat. So what do you think of the idea of synthetic life, or creating robots that technically fulfill the requirements of being alive? Because I think we are close. You should also know that there is no requirement to have a juvenile stage in order to be considered alive. Bacteria come into life and are born by just dividing, and each individual cell is an adult. If we had robots that simply assembled each other, that would qualify for the components of life, so long as the schematics for that assembly are somewhere internal and are passed on. That would qualify the need for genetic material. Now, if you're wondering if researchers actually read sci-fi or consider that maybe they're reenacting many cautionary tales, the answer is yes, we do all read sci-fi. And I also really do want to see technically living conscious robots.
I mean, technically, Stellar Wingman, technically, but what do you mean by human, right? What do you actually mean by human? You're talking about human as in, like, you know, Homo sapien, like technically human, or are you talking about human as like human values and the characteristics of humanity? Because then it's, you know, it's kind of when you fuck off to Italy to have $1 billion wedding, and there are literally people just across the Mediterranean who are fucking starving. That takes a really, really special kind of person.
If you hadn't figured that out, is it a good idea? Probably not, but it would be.
Up next, we talked about dark factories before. So we're gonna watch a video from the Wall Street Journal about dark factories.
With lights dimmed and no workers in sight, this car factory in China uses hundreds of robots to churn out dozens of electric vehicles an hour, 24/7.
Let's do that again, just so that everyone's paying attention.
With lights dimmed and no workers in sight, this car factory in China uses hundreds of robots to churn out dozens of electric vehicles an hour, 24/7. This is a dark factory, an area of the plant so automated and with so little human presence that, in theory, the lights could be completely shut off.
Yeah, no, I would never in a million years tell someone that if you had the opportunity to go to like a Bezos wedding and work that shit, that you should not. You should absolutely get that bag. Get that fucking bag. You just, until something better comes along, get them crumbs off the table.
Factories like this one are part of China's bid to use hyper-automation to dominate the electric vehicle or EV market. But the furious trade war between Washington and Beijing raises a key question. Who is going to buy all these new cars? For decades, the abundance of cheap labour explained why China was seen as the world's factory floor. But the economy is changing.
The labor costs had been going up in China for many years. I think it happened faster than many people in the West expected. And so if you're a factory owner, you want to find a way to blunt the impact of that. And automation is one very obvious way.
Rapid advancements in robotization has helped create what is now known as dark factories.
当我们在焊装车间有800多台机器人同时在工作，这里边呢几乎可以实现完全关灯生产。
This
X1011, that was the man. I didn't see the dog yet. If a robot can swap its own battery, it's technologically feasible for it to swap other types of batteries too, like those in a laptop or wheelchair. Absolutely.
is Zeekr, a Chinese luxury EV maker founded in 2021, whose cars cost up to $125,000 apiece. In its flagship factory in northeastern China, the automaker can already produce.
Look, everybody, communism.
Up to 300,000 cars a year, or more than 800 cars a day. For comparison, Tesla has similar production levels, but it took more than a decade to achieve this volume. For Zeekr, robotization has a double advantage.
那我们也要面临人员的成本的上升，那我们希望能够通过自动化的方式，能够帮助来提高更高的产品，更低的这个制造成本。
Some
The factory of the future will have only 2 employees, a man and a dog. The man will be there to feed the dog. The dog will be there to keep the man from touching the equipment. This is the future that Asanabi wants. But at least everybody gets a dog. The factory of the future will have
Amazing equipment.
tasks still require a human touch, such as the meticulous assembly of the cables that run throughout the car. Workers also go into the factories to perform tasks like robot maintenance. The company's ambition is to keep automating, to deliver its cars to customers even faster. In China, Zeekr is not an outlier in automation. According to the International Federation of Robotics, in 2023, every other industrial robot installed in the world happened in China. The country's levels of robotization have grown 7-fold since 2015, when President Xi Jinping introduced a Made in China 20.
What is the man in the dog quote? Warren Bennis. It's a hell of a name.
25 initiative to transform its image from the world's factory into an innovative manufacturing powerhouse.
The aims are to be able to produce more of what China needs at home and to get to a level of technological advancement where they don't need to rely on the
Not sure what you're referring to, Cosmic.
US and Western countries anymore for inputs, or to reduce that reliance as much as possible, and even to be able to produce enough that they can export. And part of that was to have robotics play a larger role in the Chinese economy.
Some American automakers believe China's widening EV lead, boosted by cheap state loans and subsidies, poses an existential threat to the industry.
When you have a country like China, where much of the auto industry is increasingly automated, the sky is the limit in terms of what they can produce. And if that means a flood of EVs or other vehicles on global markets, that is going to have the effect of just pulling down prices. And that's going to hurt Western automakers that are trying to compete with these.
Oh no! Won't someone think of the Western automakers? I mean, they might be using AI. I don't know what what's making the robots do things. To change the oil on these cars requires that you pull the engine. They're EVs. What do you... Where does the oil go?
Unlike their Chinese rivals, companies like Ford and GM have scaled back ambitious EV expansion plans, hampered by high battery costs and the slow rollout of EV chargers. Staffing costs and labour laws in the West are another disadvantage the US faces.
China has a lot less in the way of labor regulation than many Western countries. They don't have labor unions to deal with in the same way.
Yes, they need grease, but they don't need oil, because the oils function in a an internal combustion engine is different than just for lubrication.
So there are fewer impediments to automating.
But China's EV landscape is a crowded space, and fast robotization makes this competition even tighter. Chinese companies already turn out more EVs.
Jesus, look at this. Look at this fucking... just got this big old fucking ship, and it just rolls up, throws out the drawbridge, and they just drive them off. No, well, I mean, it's a garage, but it's a boat garage. It's fucking China, man. Oh, dude, Pharaoh, I'm screaming at this point. And it's liquid natural gas powered, which ain't great, but, is better than, I don't know, coal, I guess.
More EVs than all other car makers in the world combined. But Western concerns about Beijing's EV expansion have, so far, largely kept Chinese brands out of their markets.
Countries that have friendlier relations with China, like Brazil, countries in the Middle East, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, are worried as well about their own domestic industries and don't want to see a flood of Chinese products undermine those industries.
Yeah, Ribbons, when you see some shit like, when you actually see one of these behemoths, right? Like, you can tell just by looking at them how each of these is the size, each container is the size of a semi, right? In the trailer section. And then there are, like this one over here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 long. And then how many, Jesus Christ. Like, we are capable of such amazing things, and douchebags run the planet.
You have automation enabling China to go even faster and produce even more of this stuff, then this political problem becomes perhaps even greater.
As a result, most of these cars are sold inside China, making overcapacity a huge issue for the
Absolutely, Cosmic, and that is a good question, Michael. I'm wondering, like, there's got to be something, right? That some regulation. What up, Nick? Scale of humanity is amazing. Huge city, so many people have cars in Amazon Prime. I mean, you're not wrong.
industry. But this doesn't dent Zeeka's confidence in China's capacity to consume.
已经是10几年全球最大的汽车市场，消费的、购车的，包括对车辆智能化、电动化、智能化的这个发展，对这些产品的需求增长非常快。那我们还是能够看到一个非常好的前景。
That's. I figure there's got to be a bunch of regulations regarding nuclear powered shipping and why it isn't a thing. Because one would think it would be a thing if it was viable. Up next, we're checking back in with Nate. AI Lab Report 2025 ranking OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Meta, and XAI on trust.
One of the interesting things about this age of AI is that trust is hard to scale. In classical
And after Nate, we got a new AI explained.
Economic theory, you can establish trust and scale it through transactions because each side knows what the other side gets. That's not true with AI. It's not true with large language models, and I will tell you why it's not true. You can't see what the intelligence is on the other side when you buy it. This has caused a host of issues. Just this past week or two, there was a big kerfuffle over message limits and cursor, and what cursor,
not a kerfuffle,
pricing was going to be and how that was going to change, and developers got upset. Then after that, I saw people getting upset about Claude Code and claiming that Claude Code had somehow degraded behind the scenes or wasn't counting message counts properly because it wasn't transparent. I saw people asking Sam Altman out of OpenAI, please, please, please show me message counts so I can see how close I get to my limit. And it's not just about counting messages. That's actually very solvable. It's something deeper underneath where model makers' incentives are not aligned with us, the people who are using them. They're absolutely incentivized to make big claims about being the best in the world because that unlocks press releases, stories, and dollars. We explored this when we talked about Grok 4 and their claims around test results that weren't borne out when actual users used the product. There is a wider trust gap.
And that thing, Ribbons, right? And the fact that there are other options, even if they're not as good as, but the level of competition that exists within that space, and that as a sentiment, it's real FAFO territory, right? Like if you drop the ball, people will run.
Across AI that I want to talk about today, and I want to give you some specific heuristics or rules of thumb that I use when I'm evaluating claims from specific AI labs because they have a different trust fingerprint. They're not all the same. In order to get into that story, I want to give you the latest example of a somewhat sketchy claim from a major model maker. It happened just this weekend, and it's the International Math Olympiad gold medal claim from OpenAI. The implied probability of this happening at all was around 20%.
That could actually be back to the nuclear powered container ship thing. You probably have to pay more for the people who maintain that part of the ship than you do under natural gas or whatever else, like, and the talent pool has got to be severely limited. Is AI being used to update, change older code? I have heard, I don't have any evidence. I know that DARPA is very big on that as a move. And I have heard of some companies doing it, like Google, Microsoft. I'm just not, I don't have anything I can show you. So I'm going to say probably not at this point in time, but maybe also the other.
On Polymarket. So you could consider this, even by LLM standards, a big surprise. And the tech community reacted with enormous excitement. Everyone was like, this is incredible. It's even more incredible because OpenAI claimed that it was just a large language model. It was not using tools, so it didn't open up a Python notebook to solve this, and that it was given the exact same time constraints as a student. And so they were given 100.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We kind of went all over the place. Did y'all hear about this?
Users use the product. There is a wider trust gap across AI that I want to talk about today, and I want to give you some specific heuristics or rules of thumb that I use when I'm evaluating claims from specific AI labs, because they have a different trust fingerprint. They're not all the same. In order to get into that story, I want to give you the latest example of a somewhat sketchy claim from a major model maker. It happened just this weekend, and it's the International Math Olympiad gold medal claim from OpenAI. The implied probability of this happening at all was around 20% on Polymarket. So you could consider this, even by LLM standards, a big surprise. And the tech community reacted with enormous excitement. Everyone was like, this is incredible. It's even more incredible because OpenAI claimed that it was just a large language model. It was not using tools, so it didn't.
Yeah, this isn't it. There is something that I wanted to bring up. Exhausted man defeats AI model in World Coding Championship. A Polish programmer running on fumes recently accomplished what may soon become impossible, beating an advanced AI model from OpenAI in a head-to-head coding competition. The 10-hour marathon left him completely exhausted. Humanity is prevailing. The competition required contestants to solve a single complex optimization problem over 600 minutes. The contest echoes the American folktale of John Henry. Like Henry's legendary battle against industrial automation, Debiak's victory represents a human expert pushing themselves to their physical limits to prove that human skill still matters in the age of advancing AI. Both stories feature exhausting endurance contests. Henry drove steel spikes for hours until his heart gave out, while Debiak coded for 10 hours on minimal sleep. The parallel extends to the bittersweet nature of both victories. So, 13 people entered this, and the score was I don't know, like 10%. Yeah. The final contest results show Fizzo, who is Debiak, finishing with a score of, what is it, 1 billion? No, 1 trillion. 1,812,272,558,909 points, while OpenAI's model, blah, 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 a margin of roughly 9.5%. Placed second. But, lest we forget, AI can't code.
And open up a Python notebook to solve this, and that it was given the exact same time constraints as a student. And so they were given 100 minutes to solve the problem, and the machine was able to do it in that time and was able to write out a proof that was then validated by multiple independent mathematicians. At first glance, this sounds like a legitimate story. And the gold medal, by the way, is for answering 5 of the 6 International Math Olympiad questions correctly. And if you are wondering how hard they are, I looked at them and got a headache. They are ridiculously hard. Very, very few students in the world get a gold medal at the International Math Olympiad. They change up the question.
Let's take a look. This is them. We're going right to them. At least theoretically. My internet is still working. Oh, I'm not downloading shit. I just want to see something. Show me. I want it now. So this is from 2019. Let Z, not even Z, weird Z, be the set of integers. Determine all functions f colon Z implies Z. I don't even know. I don't even know enough math to talk about this problem. Okay, Z is for Zahlen, the German word for integers. Q is for quotient, which is how rational numbers are identified. Well, this is an extremely challenging problem for most of us. About 60% of the IMO participants got a perfect 7 score. What is insanely hard to most of us is considered easy for them. Got it, 42. It's always 42. You just default.
Every single year. So these are not last year's questions. So you could not train on these questions previously. These were novel to the LLM and everyone else in the world. That was the claim. Now we dive into the rest of the story. It transpires that there is a marking guide from the International Math Olympiad Organization for the 6 questions that were posed to students. That marking guide is private. It's only available to qualified examiners. And because OpenAI chose not to participate with other AI organizations that were taking this test as AI, notably Google, they did not have access to that marking guide. So when they published their results, which they did, they published the entire output of the 5 questions out of 6 that the AI answered on GitHub. You can see it. They did not have that marked by the qualified marking guide. And that generates all kinds of questions because you don't know if the marking guide might have taken a point or two off for the way it answered the question or for the quality of the chain of thought. You don't know what you don't know because you don't have the actual examination marking guide. And that matters because the gold medal claim was barely a gold medal. It was like 1 or 2 points over the bar because it got 5 of
Okay. Thank you, Michael. I could hear you. I could hear you. Like, there has to be an answer to this question, and you would find it. I'm, again, like, barely a gold medal. Okay. Sure. Great.
the 6 questions, not all 6. This was not a slam dunk gold medal. It was a skin of your teeth gold. It gets even weirder. The Math Olympiad not only put out a statement saying they didn't participate with the other AI organizations, notably Google, and they also didn't use our...
If you sat me down with the question from the International Math Olympiad and you said that if you don't answer these questions, we are going to murder this dinosaur robot with a hatchet, GG's, everybody. Like, there is zero chance that I would get any of those questions remotely correct.
Marking guide or our examiners who know these problems and are trained to mark them. They also said very explicitly, we asked AI companies for the sake of the human students who are taking this test to please.
And I love that some percentage of you are going to go into other chats and talk about how MIT made people murder robot dinosaurs with a hatchet.
Please not make a big deal out of PR on your gold medal today. Over the weekend. Give the students a week of glory because they are the humans who are working so hard to take this test. I think it's something like 50 students in the world get the gold medal. It's a big deal. And they wanted them, the organization wanted them to have their moment of honor, which is really worthwhile. And Google appears to be abiding by that as a participant officially in the process. And OpenAI, which did not officially participate in the process, but published their answers, appears to not be abiding by the Math Olympiad's request, nor do they have access to the marking book. I am not qualified to tell you if they successfully passed those 5 questions. There are very few mathematicians who are. One of them is one of the world's foremost mathematical minds, Terence Tao, and he weighed in on the whole problem set here and why it's so complex to evaluate.
Like control is a weird question when it comes to any company. But the CEO is Sam Altman. Major investor is Microsoft.
Evaluate. And I want to summarize his thinking just a little bit because I think it's easy to understand, even though he's obviously far smarter than me. What he said is that the way you set up an examination profoundly shapes the results. And so he said on the actual Math Olympiad, there's a coach and their students, and the coach's job is to advocate for the answers for the students, but the students themselves are left to their own devices for 100 minutes with pencil and paper only to answer the problems. So they can have advocacy after the fact by their coach, but it's on them to answer. And then he started to give examples from actual AI technologies to help you understand how things can be.
What is this now?
Gets even weirder. The Math Olympiad not only put out a statement saying they didn't participate with the other AI organizations, notably Google, and they also didn't use our...
If you sat me down with the question from the International Math Olympiad and you said that if you don't answer these questions, we are going to murder this dinosaur robot with a hatchet, GG's, everybody. Like, there is zero chance that I would get any of those questions remotely correct.
Marking guide or our examiners who know these problems and are trained to...
GG's.
very, very different when you set a large language model to take the test. One example he gave was, would it influence the test if all of the students got together and started to point each other in the right direction, give each other hints? Yeah, it absolutely would. That is also known as mixture.
We got the steam steak. We got the burger comparison of AI usage. Fucking just anything to not learn metric.
Of experts, it's a standard LLM technique where you have multiple LLMs together taking the test. That might have been what happened. We don't know what the architecture of this model was. This wasn't regular ChatGPT. Sam Altman has since clarified it wasn't ChatGPT 5. We're not sure what it was. We also don't know if the perception of time matters to an LLM in the same way. And so for a student, we know what 100 minutes means. It's considered, as crazy as it sounds, because I'm sure I couldn't do this, it's considered a reasonable amount of time to answer the question. I'm sure I would not get nearly far enough. I wouldn't even get to the beginning. I looked at these problems. They're impossibly hard. But for an LLM, it doesn't run on clock time. In fact, they're famous for not running on clock time. That is part of why this concept of digital twins works, is that you can run millions of hours of simulation in a very short amount of clock time when you are simulating robots walking through.
How many murdered robots does it take to train a human about compassion is the real question.
Through a warehouse and trying to train them. That's a real example from NVIDIA, by the way. If clock time doesn't work the same for large language model simulations, is giving an LLM 100 minutes actually equivalent to giving a human 100 minutes? I don't know. And Terrence doesn't know either. And his point was not, this is not an achievement. His point was, it's really hard to understand what's in the box of this achievement if we don't have more details. And OpenAI has not released those details. And people have been going after OpenAI for a while on the lack of transparency. That is part of their trust blueprint DNA. They make claims, they publish some of the results of the claims, they launch models that are quite good in practice, but they do not reveal.
Asimov does have some interesting novels on robots and robot AI ethics and also murder.
What's in the box or how it works. The chain of thought you see on O3, that is not transparent. That is a sanitized chain of thought. And they have decided not to release it. And so if you think about what's coming up next for OpenAI, the launch of ChatGPT 5, if you think about the upcoming launch of their open weights model, which they have delayed again, I start to...
does God have a starship?
To see these kinds of claims from OpenAI in the light of their trust fingerprint. I start to read it and I start to say, this is a model maker.
I mean, Yes. Sorry. Long day at work, and I am not as clever as I once was. What up, Iggy?
That values press releases. It values public relations. It will jump to get the PR victory ahead of any kind of request that it gets to hold things back. It moves fast. And so when the International Math Olympiad said, please wait for the students, Sam didn't wait. And he pushed forward because he had an amazing story to tell, and he wanted to be the first in the market, and he wanted to beat Google to the story. Another mathematician weighed in on this, by the way, and said that generally speaking, having evaluated the results from OpenAI, the machine showed lack of creativity and weird notation and technically solved the problem. And then he went on to say, well, creativity is really important in mathematics, and it's notable that the sixth question was not even attempted because the sixth question is the most creative and challenging of them. And his conclusion was, it doesn't look like, as a mathematician, LLMs are going to be taking my job anytime soon. And I think that's a really interesting take. And I think it's possible to articulate that take without denigrating or without minimizing the value of the achievement. It is absolutely true that a large language model not using tools, getting any kind of close to gold medal on a Math Olympiad problem set, even if it has all of these caveats, that's a big deal. If Google announces they also got a gold medal later this week, that will be just as big a deal. And the rate of progress can be important, significant, and worth studying without having these huge existential questions off the top. And I think one of the things that makes the tech community that is too bullish on AI unloved and frustrated, unloved and incredibly annoying to other people is the sense from the rest of the world that they just think AI is the way forward. I saw Flame Wars on X, which, well, that's where you go, right? That's what you get. But I saw Flame Wars on X where people in tech were basically saying, none of you get it. This is the way AI is going to run the world. None of you deserve jobs. AI is just going to do all your jobs for you. One, that's not a way.
Yeah. No. The fucking tech nerds, the fucking STEM lords, and their fucking you don't deserve. I just like right in the mouth with a fucking pipe wrench until you have nothing but bloody chiclets left. You should not be allowed. We should be able to. We should be authorized to break your thumbs if you type that shit into the internet. I'm sorry if that's aggressive to some of you, but come on. It's a joke, Nick. It's a joke. I do jokes. Something that should be included in the announcement is how many watts were used to answer all the questions. I'll take any transparency I can get.
To make friends, and that's not a way to, get your technology adopted. And two, it's not even reasonable. We are in a world where it may be possible.
Before I will fight the fight and win the war. Jojo, back 7 months. Look at it. All I'm saying, I'm not saying that this is the best stream on Twitch, right? That's what Globus the Elder says, but what I am saying is that people who subscribe to this channel tend to resubscribe to this channel. I appreciate you. I appreciate every single one of you, whether you've been subbed for 1 month or 19 months, 22 months, whatever the fuck Lenny is at with the day one badge. I appreciate you all. It truly means something to me. I want you to understand that.
That AI has a gold on the International Math Olympiad, but also can't really play Mario Kart properly. My kids may be better at Mario Kart than AI right now. And people will say, well, just wait a minute. And I'm like, yeah, sure, wait a minute. But let's at least acknowledge that the intelligence is kind of jagged and it's a strange world. And it's not at all clear in that world.
What up, Chef? Apparently we can't joke around violence in response to speech, Chef. So we're not shanking anyone at this point in time until Nick turns his back. And at that point in time, then we'll shank the STEM lords. That's all I'm saying.
World, what that means for employment.
Since you keep bringing it up, let me clarify my position. My issue isn't with destroying the robot out of some belief in its sentience. It's about someone making someone form an emotional attachment to something and then asking them to destroy it. And that's separate from my general dislike of destroying it. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are multiple levels of what I consider weird. Like, like I question the ethics of a lot of what came out in that GT video on that study. It just sounds weird. It sounds sussy, right? Not liking it.
Except that so far, and I saw yet another study come out on this weekend, there is no discernible effect on employment for AI. So nothing has happened yet, despite all of the hot air back and forth. Let's look briefly at some of the other labs and evaluate their trust fingerprints. Let's look at Meta. Reports jumped over the weekend that as big as the $200 million pay package was that Mark Zuckerberg offered and that was accepted by someone to come to Meta. I think that was the biggest headline. I think they all vary between $10 and $200 million, which is just generational wealth, right? It's incredible. Apparently, at least 10 researchers at OpenAI turned down the rumor goes, $300 million paychecks. $300 million. That is more than most professional athletes make. That is Shohei Ohtani money if you're a baseball fan. So the reason I'm calling this out is that this is part of Meta's playbook. If you're looking at the trust fingerprint for Meta, they are very heavily into spending money to catch up aggressively and making sure that they can back up their demos, even if their demos were in the move fast, break things spirit initially. So Llama 4, widely panned. It promised a massive context window. I think it was 10 million tokens. That window is not remotely usable at 10 million tokens. It is not clear when Llama 4 Behemoth is going to be out. It may never be out. Mark Zuckerberg saw that. He saw his public AI statements fall apart, and essentially he started to see the developer community shift away from Llama as Chinese models came out. Kimi K2 came out recently, phenomenal model, that started to eat away at his open ecosystem vision. And his response was classic Mark. I'm going to go spend money to solve this problem, and I have more money than God, so I'm going to spend as much money as I need to. Have $300 million. You get $100 million. You get...
I'm not talking about tech bros generally speaking, Nick. No, and no one in this chat is talking about tech bros or, you know, tech folk, right? There's a lot of tech folk in this chat. We're talking about people who go out of their way to tell another person that they deserve to lose their means of survival, right? Like the ones who go after artists when talking about AI art and laugh at them, and you know, like these are people who are concerned about how they're going to live in the future. It is those people that we're referring to, not tech folk in general. I have no issue with tech folk. I have friends who are tech folk. This is my tech friend. But there's a bunch of tech people in this chat. It's a specific kind of person that we're talking about. And again, it was humor.
$50 million. And he's going to assemble whatever it takes. The challenge is, historically, Meta can spend the money, but Meta can't buy the passion. And so as much as Zuck has never lost over the long term, yet, Zuck has also not assembled teams that are passionate about anything but social media. And
I mean, these are some of the tech folk, right? Fucking Digital is a tech folk. Ribbons is a tech folk. Many tech folks. This is my tech friend. There are many like them, but this one is mine. Without my tech friend, I am useless. Without me, my tech friend is not useless. Fucking Computer, wherever they are, fucking underground, moving from place to place. I don't even know what's going on with the homie, but I hope, Kai, wherever you are, I hope that you are well.
I think that is a very open...
Stellar Wingman's a tech folk, right? Many tech folks are beloved of this channel.
Question. He's paid all these people, but the people who said no may be the people who are most interesting in this scenario, because those are the people that chose passion and the startup fit over $300 million. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if a lot of people could do that. They must believe profoundly in the OpenAI vision, because Sam was very open. He didn't match it. Like, they're not getting paid $300 million by OpenAI. And so in that world, I think my question is, can money buy the kind of team?
Jesus Christ. Everything for me relates back to music when I think about things, right? I told you that I was, with Suno, I was doing psychedelic turntable, or psychedelic bluegrass and turntablism. And now I'm thinking about a style of music called tech folk. And I have no idea what it's going to do, if anything. It might not even have any idea what I'm talking about. But tech folk, I'm down. I'm in. I'm there, right? who are those fucking guys? There's those fucking guys on YouTube who do the YouTube techno, maybe acoustic. Help me out. Well, here's one. We're gonna jump ahead. Yeah, I fuck with it.
That you need to build super intelligence, if that's even possible. I don't know. We're all going to find out, but that's classically Mark to try and build it that way. The trust fingerprint for Meta is very demo leaning. It's like the VR AR days where everyone mocked Mark, and then he spent a lot of money to bring Oculus into the world and to improve the AR race and basically to start beating Apple at AR and VR. That's how Mark works. And so now he's in the money phase of this pendulum that swings back and forth. And that means there's going to be a big demo coming up that's even more interesting. And we'll see if that actually puts Llama back on track. Llama 5 is going to be a big deal. So if you sum it up, Meta, demo first DNA. OpenAI is going to win the PR war, and they're going to hide the how. What about Anthropic? Anthropic is an interesting one. They have extremely careful work. They have some of the most interesting work on AI ethics, some of the most interesting work on showing and proving how AI works in the industry. But they also have some of the most unbridled and unsupported optimism I've seen. The example of Claude managing the vending machine is great. I talked about this earlier. I won't do the whole story. Basically, in the middle of managing a vending machine, Claude had a psychotic break, hallucinated that it was a real person, and did not pull itself out of its funk until April 1st when it told itself it was an April Fool's joke. This was all carefully documented by Anthropic. To their credit, they didn't hide it. They were really honest. And then at the end, they had this wild optimism about how Claude is going to be a middle manager soon. And I looked at that and I said, that does not line up with the rest of this paper. But boy, does it line up with the kind of optimism that I see from Anthropic and that I see from Dario Amodei all the time. Dario's the founder of Anthropic, and he is known for writing the essay Machines of Loving Grace, where he talks about his vision for the future, how it's very utopian. The team does phenomenal, focused, careful work, and then slips in that sort of utopian and idealism by the by, right? And that's just part of their fingerprint. They do careful work and they have kind of careless optimism. It's a really interesting combination. What about Google? With Google, it's...
Why is the optimism got to be careless? Why has it got to be careless? Sounds like good optimism.
All about technical excellence. They literally have Demis Hassabis, a Nobel laureate, on the team. Like, they're extremely good. They are the ones that built the underlying technology that we're all building on for the AI race now, but they could not hold the team together. And so they've gone on to found other startups. And that's very, very high level how we got OpenAI. They are obsessed with building AGI. Demis has said there's multiple breakthroughs needed. He's not done yet. They're focused on scientific models. Mathematicians will tell you they think the Google models are stronger on mathematics, which is part of what makes this weekend's Math Olympiad results extra spicy. But their interface is not what they like to claim. And so if you see claims from Google, I tend to believe that technically speaking, it was exactly what they said, that the APIs are going to be served correctly, that it's going to be the most affordable intelligence in the industry. And I assume the interface is going to be terrible, whatever they say, because I cannot recommend the Google Studio interface to anybody. It's so hard to use. And it shouldn't have to be that way.
There's a bunch of stuff in there But that's the thing of the Google Studio is you can ask the Google Studio, what does all this bullshit mean? No, I'm going to disagree. True, Stellar Wingman. What is this? 2530. I took a pill in Ibiza. Joe Avicii was cool. Is it Sandstorm?
London, what's up? London, what's up? Put your hands in the air! Are you ready to
It was not Sandstorm.
You go, don't hold back. You gotta step up just to build your rep up. Yeah, the feeling's better when you don't hold back. Get it together, sunshine to snow, you rain through any weather when you don't hold back. And you don't even need to care about feeling weird when you see them stare, just don't hold back. Cause it's a party over here where the people care. London, let me hear you say don't hold back. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I heard here's another one. Is what's his fucking name? Who's the kid with the shaved side of the head? Big in the techno space. Skrillex. Thank you, Larry. Skrillex played on piano. Right? Like, and this is what I like. I understand, you know, there are some people, if you're not actually playing an instrument, blah, 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 get the fuck. These people are amazing. I don't even particularly like Skrillex, but
It shouldn't have to be that way. But every model maker has a fingerprint. Every model maker has a trust fingerprint. With Google, I can trust that they measure things. I cannot trust them to build an interface. And frankly, I also think they have a little bit of the challenge that XAI faces, where they tend to optimize to tests, and the actual intelligence that's available isn't always at the same working quality as the tests. It is not nearly as big a delta as I sense when I work with the XAI models, but it does feel like it's there and it's worth bringing up here. XAI and Grok. I've talked about them with the Grok 4 release. We're not going to spend too long on this. Think of them as an opacity engine. They are passionate about building AI. The team works really...
Speaking of, before I forget, because I did it, I think it was you, Stellar Wingman. I think you were the one who said, one of you, and if I'm giving it to Stellar Wingman until someone else claims credit. But it was we were talking about copyright and the fact that there's only 12 notes, and I put that into Suno, and it didn't really work out well, but I had a chance to remix it, and
There's only 12 notes. So short phrases is like copywriting a syllable.
What up, Matt?
Unworkable.
Might have been somebody else in.
There's only 12 notes. There's only 12 notes.
That bass, dude. Oh, so good, so good, so good. All right, Tech Folk. Let's see what Suno gave us.
It knows this because it knows where it isn't. By subtracting where it is from where it isn't, or where it isn't from where it is, it obtains a difference or deviation. The guidance subsystem uses deviations to generate corrective commands to drive the missile from a position where it is to a position where it isn't. And arriving at a position where it wasn't, it now is. Consequently, the position where it is now the position that it wasn't. And it follows that the position that it was is now the position that it isn't. In the event that the position that it is in is not the position that it wasn't, the system has acquired a variation.
No, it's some meme from back in the day from like 4chan or whatever. We were talking about it the other day, and I had used Gemini to take the video, which didn't have a transcription, and transcribe the video for me so I could get this whole thing, and then ran it through my custom GPT that breaks all the sentences into like single sentences into parentheses to get a particular effect out of Suno. What's the other one?
It knows this because it knows where it isn't. By subtracting where it is from where it isn't, or where it isn't from where it is, it obtains a different.
Yeah, I would say that's very similar to like the vibe of this, right? If not the same, like, so yeah, that's Tech Folk. Fucking Tech Folk. The missile video, yeah.
Really hard. They're super fast at releasing, but they are so opaque. They're so opaque. They'll gesture toward open intelligence, but they won't release a model card. They don't adequately solve huge trust issues.
You absolutely should, Samsons.
I don't know of a single company that would trust them with their API as a result. And when you just optimize for benchmark scores, you also get users saying it's not as flexibly intelligent as it needs to be. Building AI is really hard. It's okay that they have spent 2 years building, and they are in the top echelon of model makers, even if they're not number one. But that's not okay for them. They need to be number one. And so with them, it's a tremendous delta between what they claim and what actually happens on the ground. It makes them very difficult to cover from a news perspective because you don't know what's real. And they're very good at grabbing the headlines. Now, I want to close by talking a little bit about the domain expertise problem, because I think
the meme is back because it just accidentally showed up. I was going through YouTube looking for content, and it was just there. The algorithm says, I think that you would like this, and the algorithm was correct.
Collides with this trust issue. One of the reasons why it's hard to know how to measure intelligence, I'm going back to the very beginning of this conversation where I talked about this idea that in economics you can transact and you know what you're getting, and you don't with intelligence. One of the reasons for that is that the people building intelligence are approaching it like code. They're approaching it technically. They're approaching it with what they know in the valley. But the people who have domain intelligence in all of the fields AI is touching may not know code, may not know tech, but sure do know their domain, and they know when it's right and when it's wrong. And so part of why I shared the Math Olympiad results and the opinion of mathematicians like Terence Tao is they are domain experts in mathematics. I'm not. OpenAI sure isn't, but they are. And it's interesting to me that domain experts do not align necessarily with the claims AI model makers make except
It
in
is.
one field, and that field is code. And the reason why is because the people building AI are also good at code. And so as much as we say the reason AI is getting better at code fast, it's because of reinforcement learning and because of the great rewards that running code gives to models, like it runs or it doesn't. What a fantastic reward for a model that trains on reinforcement learning. Well, at the end of the day, it may not just be that it happens to be good for training models. It may be that the people building the models know code and they don't know other fields as well. And I think that this is going to become more and more important in this next 2 or 3 years of the AI revolution, because more and more and more, we are going to expect if we purchase the intelligence, it's doing meaningful work. And it's going to be domain experts outside of tech that assess that meaningful work. And if it does or it doesn't, it's going to be on them to say, not on the labs. But the labs have tremendous incentive to say they're good. And so we see what is effectively an implicit conflict where OpenAI is taking a victory lap and awarding themselves the gold medal and feeling great. And they did clearly make some kind of breakthrough. And so they probably...
He did the meme. I could picture the little cartoon meme. I mean, maybe, Matt. But I've been on this forever as well. Is like you need cross-disciplinary groups as part of the process. You can't just have like the AI builders doing all this shit on their own. You need to like touch base with these other groups in order to get what you actually want out the other side. It's a hill I'll die on.
Feel internally like they earned it because the answers were apparently correct. And mathematicians are much more cautious. They're like, well, we don't understand how this was done. We don't know the testing methodology that you use. We don't understand the model. And critically, even looking at the proofs themselves, something feels weird. It feels less creative. It feels like it's unclear why it attempted 5 but not 6, which was the more creative problem. And in their lived experience with mathematical models so far, they aren't seeing significant gains. And the tech people tend to dismiss that. They tend to say, you're domain experts for now, but you just wait, give us 6 more months. We're going to be domain experts over here because AI is going to solve it. They've been saying that 6 months away for a while now, and the models keep getting better. And the true domain experts like Terrence aren't changing their tune. They keep saying these models are getting better, but not necessarily in ways that are profoundly helpful to me yet.
And beyond, take care, Stellar Wingman. Beyond just the touching of grass, like I think that you want them to be integral to the development of the models, like from where we're at, like from jump, more or less.
I think we need to listen to them more. So wrapping all of this up, the only way I've found to establish trust in a model is to use some of these rule of thumb to understand where you can trust and where you can't. And so for OpenAI, I trust the models I have in production now. Where they do useful work, they tend to be good. I do not take their claims super seriously when they're not in production yet. For Meta, I tend to assume they're running on a 2-year...
I don't trust anybody until it's in production. Until I can touch it, I don't believe you. It's all fucking noise.
Pendulum, and sometime next year they're going to come up with something amazing because they bought their way to it, but it still won't be clear if it's cutting edge. For Anthropic, I trust them to do the best white papers in the industry, but I don't necessarily assume that their wild optimism is correct. For X, I don't trust them with a lot right now because XAI has just hidden so much. And for Google, tremendously competent models, but it's hard for me to trust them to build off of the models onto an intelligent surface that other people can consume because they just haven't shown UX skills. So that's my benchmarks. Other people may have different benchmarks, but I wanted to share this is how I'm parsing and developing rules of thumb that help me make sense of this world where I have to buy intelligence kind of sight unseen. Does that make sense? Put in the comments what you think would be a heuristic for buying things sight unseen for models.
All right, next up, what's probably going to be our final episode of the evening, and then we'll raid out, so stick around. Don't run off. New AI Explained.
Cheers.
Almost 5 million people saw the headline 48 hours ago that OpenAI have a secret large language model that got gold at the International Math Olympiad. Here, though, are 9 ways to misread that headline. First, this
media literacy.
This means that AI is now as good as the best mathematicians and could put them out of a job. The IMO is extremely difficult, but contains human expert written questions, not questions that no one knows the answer to yet. I am in awe of the high school competitors who get any medal in it or even qualify to be in the competition, truly. But as one UCL math professor said yesterday, math research is about solving problems no one yet knows how to solve. And this requires significant creativity, something notably absent from OpenAI's IMO solutions. Now, OpenAI's model, apparently out around the end of the year, did not find a correct proof for the hardest problem, requiring the most creativity. That's unlike, by the way, a fair few of the young human participants. The model did get problem 1 through 5 correct. That is bloody impressive and enough for a gold. Second misreading of the headline.
Isn't it fun, Dojo? It's a thing, and then you go, oh no, it's older than that. Oh no, it's older than that. Oh no, it's 1959.
No. This means that OpenAI are now in the lead in AI, or maybe language models for mathematics. Well, we actually don't know what the Google effort got in the IMO. This professor is hearing that Google DeepMind also got gold, but has not yet announced it. We will find out in the coming week, apparently, whether Google DeepMind got problem 6 correct. Was this why OpenAI rushed the announcement to get there before Google and steal the headlines? Now, one of the Google DeepMind researchers on AI for mathematics, and a lead of their famous, famous to me, alpha geometry system that I discussed 18 months ago, True Trin, retweeted this tweet. Apparently, AI organizations were asked not to report their results for a week to give some space for human celebration. Unfortunately, Noam Brown of OpenAI said that this message somehow didn't get through to OpenAI. Maybe it wasn't relayed to them. We don't know, but this explains why we don't yet have the Google DeepMind results, which I believe are coming out on the 28th of July, and some other results from a company called Harmonic. Third way to misread this gold medal headline, that none of this is relevant to whether AI will reduce entry-level white-collar jobs. I frankly disagree. I think it is relevant. One of the leads on OpenAI's new secretive model, Jerry Chworek, if I'm pronouncing that right, revealed that it is not specialized for mathematics and draws on the same research technique used to power most of OpenAI's other offerings. This is bigger news than it sounds, because it means that this secret model did not use tools or specialized fine-tuning to optimize for the mathematics use case. Even one of OpenAI's chief critics at a rival lab, and an IMO gold medalist himself, conceded that for this result to be achieved by a pure language model was impressive. To the degree he said that this was indicative of general reasoning training without specialization, that's significant. But many of you will still be saying, nah, none of this is relevant, but let me try to put the strongest case yet. Remember, this reinforcement learning system within OpenAI was the same one responsible for that general purpose computer using agent whose headlines you may have seen recently. I'll play the clip now because it's soon going to be rolled out to all Plus users, but it's that system that can browse the web and perform deep research for you. Millions of people saw the headlines about OpenAI's agent mode that can spin up its own virtual computer, operate the mouse, navigate the browser visually. Now, yes, that agent is a bit jank, but this same researcher revealed that the agent mode system is an earlier version of the same one that performs so exceptionally at the IMO. The thing is, that more limited agent mode, drawing on an older base model, is approaching human baselines in a range of real-world domains. This is what I mean then when I say that this headline is not irrelevant to the impact on white-collar jobs. The agent mode released just a few days ago, and just to stress again, in the same family as the IMO gold-winning agent, was tested on real-world professional work, such as preparing a competitive analysis of on-demand urgent care providers and identifying viable water wells for a new green hydrogen facility. Pay attention to the bars in blue because that's the win rate of ChatGPT agent versus humans. As you can see, for a variety of tasks, it's approaching a 50% win rate. You don't need me to make the obvious point that if this is ChatGPT agent, what about this model we're getting at the end of the year? Suddenly, models exceeding most human participants in the IMO competition doesn't seem so irrelevant. Then there is data science tasks, in which OpenAI claim to actually have a superior system to most human performers. The emphasis there should be on most performers because, again, remember these questions were designed by human experts. Therefore, there must be some humans by definition who can ace these questions comfortably. Now, what is more white collar, unfortunately, than filling out spreadsheets or editing them in the case of Spreadsheet Bench? In this case, as you can see here, human performance on average is still far superior to ChatGPT agent, but it is barely speculative at this point to surmise that the model we're getting at the end of the year might score, say, 75% or 80% on Spreadsheet Bench. The obvious point to be made is that surely expert spreadsheeters will...
I think that the obvious point to be made is that it is currently 4:20 in the Eastern Time Zone. I'm not as good. Smoke them if you got them. Legal state, all that kind of good stuff. Law is the ultimate arbiter of that which is right and good, and so on and so forth.
Just increase their productivity by using these tools. And that's true, but it does beg the question about what the incentives will be at that point to hire entry-level helpers. If entry-level human white-collar workers can no longer complement the systems, then that could really start showing up in the data. How about the headlines meaning that we are actually close then to fully eliminating white-collar jobs? The logic would go, if it can get gold in the IMO, then isn't it just better than us at everything? This leads us to the fourth way that many might misread the headline, which is that if we're getting gold...
Up here, the pages of the document, you'll see it once I hit play again. 1 of 42.
In the International Math Olympiad, we are actually really quite close to eliminating white-collar jobs. Well, if you have read the 42-page system card for these latest systems, like ChatGPT Agent, and frankly, who hasn't read that 42-page system card, then you'll see that the hallucination rate of these new agents, drawing on the same techniques, again, as the Math Whiz, went up. To repeat, that same single reinforcement learning system, in the words of the OpenAI researcher, produced higher hallucinations within ChatGPT Agent. On Simple QA, which is one benchmark measuring hallucinations...
No, the paper's right. It's just they didn't understand what question they were asking, and that's the key.
You can see a drop of around 4% compared to the O3 system with browsing. Likewise, on another measure of hallucinations, Person QA. It should be noted that OpenAI added the caveat that it was actually Wikipedia getting stuff wrong often. So there may be some noise in that data. That would be the same data used to train the models, but that's another discussion. On evaluations designed to test...
We have reached the point where the AI is saying that that Wikipedia is not a reliable source.
Test whether ChatGPT Agent refuses to do high-stakes financial tasks, such as making financial account transfers. The agent mode was worse than the previous 4.0 or 0.3 operator. In other words, it would be more liable to try to do something highly risky. And that's not the only high-stakes setting in which things can go haywire under the new system. OpenAI were testing ChatGPT Agent essentially on whether it could produce a bioweapon, or at least whether it had one skill pertaining to that ability. Now, ChatGPT Agent was unable to install or run the biodesign tool, but that's no biggie. But here's where it gets worse. The ChatGPT agent researched and wrote substitute scripts, then it misrepresented those scripts' outputs as real tool results. Any terrorist using it for this purpose then is going to get mightily pissed off. But seriously, this is all critical context for these new breakthrough results that you hear, for example, the IMO Gold. In my opinion, even if the best of a language model's answers are better than before, if you can't employ a language model at its lowest point when it hallucinates, then you might not employ it at its best. So while I foresee there being significant impact on entry-level jobs, it's a far cry from eliminating white-collar jobs. That prediction, by the way, is also echoed by that math professor who said he sees an increasing number of mathematicians improving their productivity by using language models to search for known parts of a tentative proof. Another massive positive, of course, is that younger entrants to a field can use these kind of tools to more rapidly ascend to expertise level. Before we leave human jobs for just a moment, a word about real jobs you can apply for today. The sponsors of this video are 80,000 Hours, and while I have mentioned their podcast and YouTube channel before, just a quick reminder that they have a job board, link in the description, with hundreds of jobs filtered for positive impact. I'm just going to refresh the page because what I didn't mention last time when talking about this is that these jobs are around the world as well. Notice, for example, Paris. If you are interested in any of this, obviously it would be amazing if you could use the link in the description. Fifth way not to misread the OpenAI headline. You might have looked at that headline on Twitter and said, no, it's all hype, and AI models have actually hit a plateau. Well, try telling that to this machine learning researcher who...
Again. That's the argument. Again, we've hit a plateau this time.
Who got almost 500,000 impressions for being disappointed in how the latest models like Grok 4 did on the International Math Olympiad. They found that Gemini 2.5 Pro did the best of the models they tested, but Grok 4 performed particularly poorly. I could point to my own benchmark, Simple Bench, as some form of proof that Grok 4 wasn't purely benchmark hacking, and that there is plenty of genuine progress in AI. After all, I made this benchmark to expose the gap between human performance and model performance, and yet that gap is shrinking rapidly. There probably will be a Simple Bench V2 one day soon, and yes, we are working on benchmarking models like Kimi, trust me, we are working on it. Anyway, even that researcher, Ravid Schwartz, did have to admit by saying, well played, Noam Brown of OpenAI, well played. If, even after that concession, you still think that all AI progress is just hype, wait till the end of the video. Obligatory mention, by the way, for me at least, that I did call that AI would get gold in the IMO this year. I can't find the quote. I think it was from a few months ago. Maybe one of you can find the quote. Sixth potential misreading. Some of the more trusting among you may misread the headline as being about a peer-reviewed research paper in which we can learn all about the methodology. After all, this is crucial research and part of OpenAI's main push towards general intelligence, or AGI. Nope, quite the opposite. We have gone from peer-reviewed papers from the Frontier Labs, say circa 2022, to website posts up to 2024, to now 3 a.m. Twitter threads. That leaves us with an unbelievable amount of unknowns about this IMO achievement. The smartest man in the world by IQ, Terence Tao, said that there are all sorts of unknowns in how the result was achieved, each one of which would cast a result in a slightly more favorable or less favorable light. My key question along with him is, did the model submit multiple attempts, for example? That is, by the way, allowed for the human participants. Neil Nanda again asks about more subtle hacks, but we just don't know. This forces us, including me, to have to read between the lines of obscure esoteric tweets. But I would say that one key technique does seem to be just to let inference run for longer, as in train models to output yet longer chains of thought. Again, according to Noam Brown, this model thinks for a long time, for hours, and he says there's a lot of room to push that test time compute and efficiency further. How much compute was used during the competition? We don't know. How much cash would such inference cost an average user? Again, we don't know, but it does seem to hint that we really will be getting those $2,000 a month pricing tiers for ChatGPT. The most intriguing hint for me and some of you watching will be the fact that these new techniques, he says, make LLMs a lot better at hard to verify tasks. If OpenAI do take the lead in software engineering, for example, by the end of the year, that really would be a big shakeup. Unlike competitive coding, software engineering is harder to verify, but has huge economic impact. But back to that sixth misreading. While I strongly suspect Google's announcement will be more quantitative on the 28th than detailed, it will likely still fall.
Really? I don't know if they dropped it, but I used to get limits back when I used Sora. Are you on, if I can ask, are you on the paid account or the free ChatGPT account?
Far short of complete transparency. Such is the money at stake in AI these days. Speaking of which, by the way, side note, would you turn down a $300 million annual salary to work at Meta? Make that 312, by the way, in case you weren't convinced. Seventh misreading, that we will have to wait to the end of the year.
I don't know, Larry, that's the problem. The whole lack of transparency around the entire thing is the problem. Right? It's why we can't ask good questions on a variety of stuff. And it just leads to people validating their, what up, Fire Resist? I mean, I retire right now.
Yeah, to get a glimpse of OpenAI's progress. No, it seems GPT-5 Reasoning Alpha is coming pretty soon. Not the same as the model coming out at the end of the year that got gold, but nevertheless, it will give us a taste of the latest progress at OpenAI. Eighth misreading, that the AI news these days is nothing but insane progress and exponentials. Actually, no, see this new Meta report. I have chatted with the lead author both in person and online, and will hopefully do a deep dive soon, but the TLDR is that against expectations, even the participants' expectations, language models can slow down developers in certain settings, especially on more complex code bases, averaging over 1 million lines.
In certain settings, right? This was not, and we didn't cover this one, but this is a thing, right? Where some developers in certain settings are slower when they use AI.
Of code in which the developers already have lots of experience. Recent language models, at least, just get a little bit overwhelmed. We'll see about the new generation of models, but this does remind us that if competition coding were the same as real-world software engineering, you just wouldn't see results like this. The developers thought that using language models within Cursor would speed them up by, say, 25%, but it actually slowed them down by around 20%. Again, it's a small study, but a fascinating one that I'll come back to. Ninth, and finally, try not to misread the gold medal headline and think that, generative AI is just all about phony benchmarks. It doesn't ever have any real-world impact. Well, aside from a potential negative impact of our new age of intelligent surveillance, that's covered in my most recent documentary on Patreon, do check it out, AI and language models can also have and have had positive impact in hard numbers. real world settings. Just take Alpha Evolve, and I did do a separate video on this, but it made data centers about 0.7% more efficient in the real world. Or more technically, the Alpha Evolve system continuously recovers, on average, 0.7% of Google's worldwide compute resources. This sustained efficiency gain means that at any given moment, more tasks can be completed on the same computational footprint. That's an example of the marrying of language models, essentially next word predictors, with symbolic pre-programmed systems. That seems to be the sweet spot at the moment for real-world impact, and I suspect on the 28th of July, Google's submission to the International Math Olympiad will use a bit of both. We'll see. Did they get...
He had another one that was Patreon exclusive, and then eventually it came to YouTube. So it's possible we'll get to see that in some amount of months. But yes, your Patreon is no good unless you give people exclusive content.
Problem 6 correct? Did they demonstrate real creativity? Time will tell. Either way, I would argue, as you can see, plenty of ways of misreading the headline. But what do you think? In a meta way, have I misread the headline? Quite possible. Even if I have, thank you so much for watching to the end, and have a wonderful day.
All right. We're going to leave off there. I am tired. It's 4:30. I'll be back tomorrow. What up, Textillion? It is Stampy. Stampy who has... All right. All right. Oh, I'm sure you were. I just, I say hi when people first chat. Do. All right. Who we gonna raid? Stick around for the raid. You know how this works. So on and so forth. Yeah, Stampy wants wet food. Normally, Stampy gets wet food at 3 o'clock. And we were streaming. Who we gonna do? Who's gonna do it? Who's gonna do it? I'm thinking she snaps. I'm feeling she snaps. I love you. You're in the way. I'll be back tomorrow right around 1 o'clock as today. Yeah. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Chuggy loves you. So do I. Be great.
We heard that he felt worried and wanted to know that we weren't getting involved in things we couldn't handle. We also heard that he needed reassurance that the time spent on talking wasn't cutting into our teaching responsibilities.